Welcome to Lotus Whisper, Zen Tales for Sleep. Tonight, we embark on a gentle journey inward, exploring one of the most profound yet misunderstood paths in Buddhist wisdom, the path to true self-love. This is not the love of ego or pride, but a quiet, unconditional acceptance of our own being. It is the practice of offering ourselves the same warmth and compassion we so freely give to others. We will learn to see that this gentle kindness is the very foundation from which all peace grows. It is the soft light that can illuminate the dark corners of self-doubt and soothe the restless mind. As we walk this path together, we will discover how this profound self-acceptance can untangle the knots of anxiety, preparing us for a deep, healing, and truly restorative sleep. Please subscribe to the channel to hear more stories like this. Part 1. The Root of the Inner Critic, Understanding Our Own Suffering. Settle in now, beneath the weight of your blankets, and let the day dissolve. Feel the gentle support of the surface beneath you, a quiet and steady presence holding you in this moment of rest. The sounds of the world outside begin to fade, replaced by the soft rhythm of your own breathing. In and out. A simple, effortless tide. Yet, even in this stillness, the mind can remain busy. It can feel like a room where a conversation continues long after the guests have gone home. And often, the voice that speaks the loudest in this quiet room is the one we know best of all. It is the inner critic. It does not shout. It rarely needs to. Its power is in its persistence, its quiet whisper that sounds so much like reason. It may be reviewing the day that has just passed, pointing out a misspoken word, a task left undone, a moment where you believe you fell short. It might be a voice that says, "You are not doing enough. You are not good enough." It compares, it measures, and it always finds you wanting. This voice can feel so personal, so deeply and uniquely yours, a private torment that you alone must bear. You may feel a familiar tension in your shoulders, a slight clenching in your jaw as you listen to its tireless arguments. This feeling, this subtle, pervasive hum of dissatisfaction, is where our journey to self-love must begin. Not by silencing the critic, but by understanding the soil from which it grows. In the ancient language of the Buddha, this feeling has a name. It is called dukkha. We often translate this word as suffering, and it does include the great sorrows and pains of life. But its meaning is far broader, far more intimate. Dukkha is also the small pebble in your shoe that you cannot seem to shake out. It is the quiet ache of loneliness, the sting of disappointment, the restless feeling that something is not quite right, that you are not quite right. It is the background noise of unease that fuels the inner critic, giving its words the weight of truth. The Buddha's first great teaching, the first noble truth, was simply this: there is dukkha. He did not say this to cause despair, but to offer profound relief. He was saying that this feeling of unease is not a personal failure. It is not a sign that you are broken or that you are doing life wrong. It is a fundamental, shared part of the human experience. It is the rain that falls on every field, the wind that blows against every house. By simply acknowledging this, by seeing our own inner struggle not as a private shame, but as a universal condition, we take the first step out of isolation and into a vast and gentle understanding. The inner critic begins to lose its power when we realize it is not speaking a truth unique to us, but is simply giving voice to this shared human ache. Let us travel now to a small village nestled in a valley, surrounded by mountains that seemed to hold the sky on their shoulders. In this village lived a young potter named Kian. His hands were strong and steady, and he knew the language of clay as if he had been born speaking it. He could take a lump of wet, dark earth and, with the patient turning of his wheel, coax it into the graceful shape of a vase or the humble curve of a bowl. His workshop was a quiet place, filled with the scent of damp earth and wood smoke. Dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight that slanted through the single window. Yet, for Kian, this quiet space was often filled with a storm of noise. Each morning, he would sit at his wheel, center a ball of clay, and begin. His fingers would press and guide, and a form would begin to rise. But as it grew, the voice would begin. It was his own voice, yet it felt like it belonged to someone else. A harsh judge standing just behind his shoulder. "Look at that wall. It is too thick. The curve is not as elegant as your master's. This is clumsy. This is worthless." He would compare his work to the pieces made by his teacher, the old monk Jin, whose bowls seemed to hold a perfect, effortless silence within them. Kian's bowls, to his own eyes, seemed to shout their imperfections. One afternoon, after a long and frustrating morning, Kian found himself staring at a dozen newly thrown bowls, all drying on a long wooden plank. To anyone else, they would have looked beautiful, each with its own subtle character. But Kian saw only flaws. He saw the slight wobble in a rim, the faint fingerprint left near a base, the curve that was a fraction of an inch too deep. The feeling of dukkha, of deep dissatisfaction, washed over him. A hot wave of frustration rose in his chest, and he clenched his fists. He felt the familiar, powerful urge to take a hammer and smash every single one of them, to reduce his failure to dust. At that moment, the door to the workshop slid open with a soft whisper of wood on wood. Old Jin stood there, his simple brown robe the color of the earth Kian worked with. He did not speak at first, but simply stood, his presence filling the room with a profound calm. His eyes, full of a gentle, knowing light, rested on Kian, and then on the row of bowls. "The clay was heavy today, Kian?" Jin asked, his voice as smooth and quiet as a slow-moving river. Kian could not meet his master's gaze. He stared at the floor. "The clay is fine, master. It is my hands. They are clumsy. They cannot create what is in my mind. Everything I make is flawed." Jin walked slowly over to the plank and picked up one of the bowls. He held it in both hands, turning it gently, his fingertips tracing its shape. It was one of the bowls Kian hated most, one where the lip had a slight, almost imperceptible dip on one side. "Ah," Jin said softly, "you are feeling the great ache." Kian looked up, confused. "The great ache?" "Yes," said Jin. "The feeling that things are not as they should be, that you are not as you should be. You look at this bowl and you see a mistake. You feel it as a failure, your failure. This feeling, this ache, is dukkha. It is the starting point of all journeys." Jin gestured for Kian to sit. They sat on low stools, the afternoon sun warming the wooden floor. Jin placed the imperfect bowl between them. "Tell me about the flaw," Jin said. The rim is uneven, Kian said immediately. It dips, it is not perfect. And what does this unevenness say to you? Jin asked, his gaze gentle and curious. It says I am not a good potter, Kian replied, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. It says I am not as good as you. It says I have failed. I see, Jin nodded slowly. The bowl's shape has become a story about you. But is that the only story it can tell? Look again. Feel its weight. Notice the color of the clay. Notice the curve that you did get right. This bowl is not just one thing. It is not just a dip in the rim. It is a whole, complete thing, here, in this moment. The dip is part of its wholeness. It is not a flaw. It is a feature. It is the mark of the hand that made it. It is the mark of your hand, Kian. It tells the story of a moment in time, of a human hand working with the earth. Why must that story be one of failure? Kian looked at the bowl, truly looked at it for the first time, not as a reflection of his own worth, but as an object in itself. He saw the soft gray of the drying clay. He saw the gentle sweep of its sides. And he saw the dip. It was still there, but hearing his master's words, it seemed different. Less like a wound, and more like a dimple, a unique characteristic that set this bowl apart from all others. We fight so hard against this feeling of dukkha, Jin continued, his voice a low murmur. When the inner critic speaks, we either believe it completely and fall into despair, or we try to argue with it, to fight it, to silence it. Both are forms of struggle. Both create more tension, more suffering. There is another way. It is the way of acknowledgement, the way of simply noticing. Jin stood and beckoned Kian to follow him. They left the workshop and walked along a path that led out of the village and towards a small, clear river that flowed down from the mountains. The air was cool and clean, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. The only sound was the gentle music of the water flowing over smooth stones. They sat on a large, flat rock at the river's edge. Watch the water, Kian, Jin said. It is always moving, always changing. Can you stop it with your hands? Kian shook his head. Of course not. If you were to build a dam, Jin said, a great wall of stone and earth to stop its flow, what would happen? The water would build up behind it, Kian said. The pressure would grow and grow until it either broke the dam or flowed over it. The river would still seek its path. Exactly, Jin smiled. Your thoughts, your feelings, the voice of your critic, they are like this river. They flow. The feeling of not being good enough is a current within you. The frustration is another. The desire for perfection is another. For your whole life, you have been building dams. You try to stop the thoughts. You try to block the feelings. You struggle against the flow. And the pressure builds, does it not? The ache becomes heavier. Kian looked at the endless, effortless movement of the water. He thought of the tightness in his chest, the tension in his shoulders. It did feel like pressure. It felt like a dam about to break. The first practice, Jin said, his voice blending with the sound of the river, is not to stop the river. It is to simply sit on the bank and watch it flow. You do not have to jump in. You do not have to be swept away by the current. And you do not have to stop it. You can simply be the observer. When the thought arises, this is not good enough, you can notice it. Ah, there is the thought of not good enough. You can watch it arrive, see it for what it is, just a thought, a pattern of energy, and watch it float by like a leaf on the water. You do not have to believe it. You do not have to fight it. You simply acknowledge its presence. I see you, thought of failure. I feel you, ache of dissatisfaction. And then you breathe. They sat in silence for a long time, just watching the water. Kian felt the rhythm of the river begin to merge with the rhythm of his own breath. He noticed thoughts arising in his mind, thoughts about the bowls, about his skill, about the village. But for the first time, he tried not to grab onto them. He tried to let them be, like leaves floating past on the current. It was not easy. His mind wanted to latch on, to follow them, to build stories around them. But he kept returning his attention to the sight and sound of the water and to the feeling of his own breath moving in and out. Slowly, subtly, something inside him began to soften. The tight knot of anxiety in his stomach did not vanish, but it seemed to loosen its grip. He was still Kian, the potter who struggled. But he was also Kian, the one sitting on the riverbank, watching the struggle flow by. He was both. And in that realization, there was a quiet space, a moment of peace. As you lie here now, ready for sleep, perhaps you can feel your own river, the river of thoughts about today, about tomorrow, the currents of worry, of planning, of self-judgment. The voice of your inner critic may be one of those currents, whispering its familiar stories. You do not need to build a dam tonight. You do not need to argue with that voice or push it away. You can simply come and sit on the riverbank of your own awareness. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest with each breath. This breath is your anchor, your place on the bank. When a thought of self-criticism arises, a memory of a mistake, a feeling of inadequacy, you can gently say to yourself, there is that thought, there is that feeling. You can acknowledge it without judgment. You are not the thought, you are not the feeling. You are the vast, quiet awareness that notices the thought, that feels the feeling. This suffering, this dukkha, this feeling of not being quite right, is not your enemy. It is not a sign that you have failed. It is the shared water of human life, flowing through everyone. By understanding this, you lift the heavy burden of personal blame. You are not alone in this feeling. Everyone who has ever lived has sat by this same river. The first act of self-love is not to tell yourself that you are perfect. It is to gently and kindly acknowledge that you are a human being, experiencing the shared human condition of dukkha. It is to look at your own imperfect bowl, with its dips and wobbles, and to see not a failure, but the story of a life being lived. It is to offer a gentle compassion to the ache itself. Imagine the voice of your critic is just a leaf floating on the water. Watch it come into view, and then watch it drift away downstream. Another thought may follow. Let it drift by too. There is nothing to do, nothing to fix. You are simply here, resting on the bank. The river will continue to flow. It is its nature. But you can choose to rest. You can choose to be still. And in this stillness, in this gentle acceptance of the river's flow, you can find the peace that has been waiting for you all along. The quiet space between the thoughts, the deep, restorative calm that lies beneath the surface of the water. Allow yourself to rest in that quiet space now. Let the river flow on without you as you drift into a peaceful, healing sleep. Part 2. The empty chair. Letting go of a fixed self. Let your breath be your gentle guide, leading you further away from the shores of the waking world. With each exhale, feel a layer of tension melting away, like snow in the spring sun. We sat together on the riverbank, acknowledging the flow of dukkha, the universal ache of being human. We saw how the inner critic draws its strength from this feeling, creating stories of our inadequacy. But to whom does this critic speak? It speaks to a version of ourselves that we believe to be solid, permanent, and real. It addresses a character in a play that we have come to believe is our entire identity. The failed potter, the anxious one, the person who is not enough. We carry this character with us everywhere, defending it, polishing it, and suffering under the weight of its perceived flaws. Tonight, we will gently question this character. We will invite it into the light, not to judge it, but to see if it is truly there at all. This leads us to one of the most liberating and subtle of all Buddhist teachings. It is called anatta, which means non-self. This is not a denial of your existence. You are here, breathing, feeling, listening. Anatta is the gentle understanding that the self you believe yourself to be is not a fixed, solid thing like a stone in your hand. Instead, it is a process, a flowing pattern of experiences, like a river. It is a collection of ever-changing parts, a body that is different with every breath, feelings that rise and fall like waves, perceptions that shift with the light, thoughts that appear and disappear like clouds, and the consciousness that is simply the awareness of all this activity. We mistake this flowing river for a solid statue, and in that mistake, we find so much of our suffering. When we learn to see the flow, we can finally set down the heavy stone we thought we had to carry. Let us return to the potter's village, to Kion, who is still sitting by the river with his master, Jin. The sun is lower in the sky now, casting long, soft shadows across the water. Kion feels a quietness he has not felt in a long time, a space opened up by the simple act of watching his thoughts instead of wrestling with them. Yet, the old identity is still there, a familiar ache in his heart. The story of Kion, the clumsy potter, has been his companion for so long, he does not know who he would be without it. Jin seems to sense this. He stands up slowly, his joints making a soft, creaking sound like old wood. "Come, Kion," he says. "There is one more thing to see today." They walk back towards the monastery, their footsteps quiet on the dusty path. They do not go back to the workshop, but to a small, simple building at the edge of the temple grounds. It is a meditation hall, but it is empty now. The air inside is cool and still, smelling of aged wood and incense. The room is bare except for a few woven cushions on the floor, and, in the very center of the room, a single, straight-backed wooden chair. It is a simple chair, worn smooth by time, its grain glowing in the soft light from a paper screen window. Jin gestures towards the chair. "Kion," he says, his voice calm and clear in the silent room. "You have told me about this person you believe yourself to be. This bad potter. This one who always fails. I would like to meet him. Please, invite him to sit in this chair so that we may see him clearly." Kion stares at the empty chair. A feeling of confusion rises in him. He does not understand. "But Master," he says, "he is me. I am here." "Are you?" Jin asks, a gentle smile touching his lips. "The one who is speaking to me now, is he the same one who was a small child playing by the river?" Is he the same one who felt joy this morning when he saw the sunrise? Is he the same one who feels frustration at the potter's wheel? The self is a very busy place, with many guests coming and going. The one you call the bad potter is a very loud and persistent guest. So please, ask him to take a seat. Kian turns his full attention to the chair. He closes his eyes for a moment and tries to conjure this self, this identity that has caused him so much pain. He tries to form a picture of the failed Kian and mentally place him in the chair. But he finds he cannot grasp anything solid. The image dissolves like smoke. He opens his eyes and tries again. He starts with the physical. Is it my hands? He thinks. Are my hands the failure? He looks at his own hands, covered in faint lines of dried clay. These are the hands that create the wobbly rims, but these are also the hands that prepared his morning tea, that can mend a fence, that once held a frightened baby bird until it was calm. His hands are not one thing. They are just hands. They cannot be the entirety of this failed self. He cannot place just his hands in the chair. The chair remains empty. Perhaps it is my body, he thinks. He feels the weariness in his shoulders from his work. He feels the solidness of his feet on the floor. This body carries the tension of his frustration. But this body also feels the warmth of the sun and the coolness of the river. It enjoys the taste of rice and the comfort of sleep. His body is a vessel for countless experiences, not just for failure. It is changing with every breath, every heartbeat. It is not a fixed thing. He cannot place his body in the chair as the failed potter. The chair remains empty. Jean watches him, his expression patient and kind. What did you find? He asks softly. Nothing, Master, Kian says, a note of wonder in his voice. I cannot find him. Keep looking, Jean encourages. Perhaps he is not in the body. Perhaps he is in the mind. So Kian looks for the failure in his mind. Is it my thoughts? He wonders. The thought, I am not good enough, certainly feels real. It is loud and sharp. But as he sits there in the quiet hall, he notices other thoughts. A memory of his mother's smile. A plan to buy more firewood tomorrow. A fleeting image of a cloud he saw earlier. His thoughts are a ceaseless parade, a stream of images and words. The thought of failure is just one in a long procession. It comes, and if he does not hold on to it, it goes. It is not a permanent resident. It is a visitor. He cannot place a single thought in the chair and call it his self. The chair remains empty. Then it must be my feelings, he reasons. He summons the familiar, hot feeling of frustration that rises in his chest in the workshop. It feels so powerful, so all-consuming in the moment. It feels like the very essence of him. But as he tries to isolate it, he remembers the feeling of peace he felt by the river just a few moments ago. He remembers the feeling of hope he has on some mornings, and the quiet contentment he feels after a good meal. His feelings are like the weather, constantly changing. A storm of frustration can rage, but it always passes, giving way to sunshine or gentle rain. A feeling is not a permanent self. He cannot place the feeling of frustration in the chair. The chair remains empty. Kian sits in silence for a long time, staring at the simple wooden chair. It is just a chair, and it is empty. The solid, heavy, unchangeable identity of Kian, the failed potter, that he has carried for years. He cannot find it. He has searched his body, his thoughts, and his feelings, and he has found no single, lasting thing to name as this self. It was a story, a powerful story, a painful story, but a story nonetheless. It was a ghost he had invited to live in his house, a ghost made of fleeting thoughts and feelings that he had stitched together and given his own name. A slow, profound sense of release begins to spread through him. It is not a sudden, dramatic explosion, but a quiet, gentle unfurling. The heavy weight on his shoulders seems to lift. The tight knot in his stomach begins to dissolve. If this failed self is not real, then he does not have to spend his life fighting it. He does not have to prove it wrong. He does not have to fix it. He can simply let the story go. He can let the ghost drift away. All that is left is the awareness that is watching it all. The body, the thoughts, the feelings. All that is left is the quiet presence in the room, looking at an empty chair. He looks up at Jin, and his eyes are clear. "The chair is empty," Kian says, his voice barely a whisper. Jin nods, his eyes full of warmth. "Yes," he says, "it is always empty. We spend our lives decorating this chair, insisting someone is sitting in it. We place a king in it and become proud. We place a beggar in it and become ashamed. We place a failure in it and become desperate. The practice of wisdom is to simply keep looking at the chair again and again until we see, with our own heart, that it is, and always has been, empty. And this emptiness is not a void. It is freedom. It is the freedom to not be defined by any single thought, any single feeling, any single story. It is the freedom to simply be the process of life itself. As you lie here now, sinking into the comfort of your bed, consider the chairs in your own mind. Perhaps there is a chair where you have placed the anxious self, or the unlovable self, or the self that is falling behind. These identities can feel so solid, so real, so heavy. Gently, without any struggle, you can perform the same investigation as Kian. Look for this self. Is it in your body? Is the feeling of anxiety in your chest your entire being? Or is it a temporary sensation, one of many your body can feel? Your body also knows warmth, comfort, and stillness. It is not just anxiety. The chair remains empty. Is this self in your thoughts? Is the thought, "I am worried," the sum total of who you are? Or is it one of countless thoughts, a cloud passing through the vast sky of your mind? Other thoughts will come, memories, dreams, simple observations. A single thought cannot be your permanent self. The chair remains empty. Is it in your feelings? Is the emotion of fear or sadness who you are? Or is it a wave in the ocean of your heart? The ocean also knows calm, it knows joy, it knows peace. A single feeling, no matter how strong, is just a temporary guest. The chair remains empty. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to force. Simply by looking, you begin to see the truth. The labels we give ourselves are just stories. They are not solid. They are not you. You are the awareness in which these stories appear. You are the silent, spacious room in which the chair sits. This understanding is the beginning of a profound stillness. The inner critic loses its target. Who is it judging if the chair is empty? Its words become echoes in a vast, open space, losing their power to wound. A great burden is lifted. The exhausting work of defending and defining a fixed self can be set down. You can finally rest. Allow yourself to feel this release now. Feel the spaciousness that opens up when you let go of a fixed identity. You are not a single, flawed thing. You are a flowing, changing, miraculous process. You are the river. You are the sky. You are the breath moving in and out of your body. Let go of the story of who you think you are, just for tonight. Let the chair be empty, and in that spacious, peaceful emptiness, allow yourself to drift into a deep and healing sleep. Of course, I will continue the story from that point of realization, deepening the lesson and ensuring the part reaches the target word count. He looks up at Jin, and his eyes are clear. "The chair is empty," Kian says, his voice barely a whisper. Jin nods, his eyes full of warmth. "Yes," he says, "it is always empty. We spend our lives decorating this chair, insisting someone is sitting in it. We place a king in it and become proud. We place a beggar in it and become ashamed. We place a failure in it and become desperate. The practice of wisdom is to simply keep looking at the chair again and again until we see with our own heart that it is, and always has been, empty. And this emptiness is not a void. It is freedom. It is the freedom to not be defined by any single thought, any single feeling, any single story. It is the freedom to simply be the process of life itself." Kian felt the truth of these words resonate deep within him, like the low hum of a perfectly thrown bowl. A profound peace settled over him, but with it came a new, more subtle question. He looked from the empty chair to his own hands, then back to his master. "But, Master Jin," he began, his voice soft in the still air of the hall, "if the one who fails is not there, then who is it that sits at the wheel? Whose hands feel the clay? Who is it that is speaking to you now?" Jin's smile widened, a gentle expression of deep understanding. He did not answer immediately, but walked to the paper screen window and slid it open a little further, letting in the scent of the evening air and the distant sound of crickets beginning their nightly song. "We are so accustomed to thinking in terms of nouns," Jin said, turning back to Kian. "A potter, a teacher, a failure, a success. We look for a solid thing, a noun, to which we can attach all of our experiences. But what if life is not made of nouns, but of verbs? What if there is no potter sitting in the chair, but only the verb potting? What if there is no speaker, but only the action of speaking?" He paused, letting the idea settle in the quiet room. "When you sit at your wheel, there is seeing, feeling, touching, turning, shaping. There is a flow of action, a dance between your body and the clay. The story of the failed potter is a noun you have created, a heavy statue you place right in the middle of this beautiful dance, interrupting its flow. The statue demands that the dance be perfect. It judges every step. It fills the dance with fear. When you see that the chair is empty," Jin continued, "you remove the statue, and what is left? Only the dance. There is just the feeling of the wet clay spinning beneath your fingers. There is just the sound of the wheel. There is just the breath moving in your body. The action becomes pure. It is no longer a performance to be judged. It is simply life happening. The hands that shape the clay are no longer your hands, burdened with a history of failure. They are simply hands, present in this one single moment, doing what they are doing." Kian thought of the moments, rare and fleeting, when he had felt this. Moments at the wheel when the world seemed to fall away, when there was no Kian and no clay, but only a seamless, flowing movement. In those moments, the bowls he created were always the most beautiful, the most alive. He had always thought of it as luck, a moment of unearned grace. Now, he began to see it was something else entirely. It was a moment of forgetting himself, a moment of letting the chair be empty. "The ghost of the failed potter will return, Kian," Jin said, his voice gentle but clear. "The mind has deep habits. It has been furnishing that chair for a very long time. The old stories will arise. The critic will begin to speak again. This is not a failure. It is just the nature of the mind. The practice is not to fight the ghost or to be angry that it has returned. The practice is to simply notice it, to greet it with a quiet understanding, and to remember the truth you have seen today. You see the ghost trying to take its seat, and you smile, and you turn your attention back to the dance. You turn your attention back to your breath, to the feeling of the clay, to the reality of this present moment. You do not have to drive the ghost away. You simply do not invite it for tea. You let it fade for lack of attention, because you are too busy living. As you lie here, in the sanctuary of your own quiet space, you can feel this truth in your own body. The identity you may have been struggling with all day, the anxious person, the one who worries, the one who is not doing enough, is a ghost that has been trying to sit in your chair. You have looked for it now, in your body, your thoughts, your feelings, and you have found that the chair is empty. This emptiness is not cold or barren. It is the warm, welcoming space of pure potential. It is the silence that allows music to be heard. It is the stillness that allows the breath to move. It is the boundless peace of your own true nature, before any story was ever written upon it. You do not need to be a good sleeper tonight. You do not need to perform the act of resting. There is no noun to be, no role to play. There is only the verb. There is only breathing. There is only resting. There is only the gentle sensation of your body letting go. Feel the release of not having to be anyone. Feel the freedom of the empty chair. In this spacious, undefined, and peaceful presence, there is nothing to fix and nothing to fear. There is only the soft, steady rhythm of your breath, a gentle tide carrying you out into the calm, deep ocean of sleep. Part 3. The Silent Observer, Watching Thoughts Like Clouds. Let the world recede now as you draw your attention inward to the quiet haven of this present moment. Feel the gentle weight of your body, a soft and comforting anchor in the sea of stillness. We have journeyed together to the potter's workshop and sat in the quiet meditation hall. We have looked for the solid, fixed self that our inner critic speaks to, and we have found only an empty chair. This discovery brings a profound sense of release, a spaciousness where there was once a heavy burden. But even with this newfound freedom, the mind continues its ceaseless activity. Thoughts, feelings, and sensations continue to arise and pass away. The old stories, the familiar worries, the echoes of the inner critic will still drift through the vast, open space of our awareness. What, then, are we to do with this endless flow? How do we rest in this freedom when the river of the mind keeps moving? This brings us to the heart of meditative practice, a gentle skill known as sati, or mindfulness. It is the art of becoming the silent observer. It is not about stopping our thoughts or controlling our feelings. It is not about emptying the mind, for the mind's nature is to think, just as the heart's nature is to beat. Mindfulness is simply the practice of watching the activity of the mind without getting caught up in it. It is the ability to stand on the riverbank and observe the water's flow without being swept away by the current. It is to watch our thoughts and feelings as we would watch clouds drifting across a vast summer sky. They appear, they take a shape, they linger for a moment, and then they dissolve, all on their own. We do not have to chase them, and we do not have to push them away. We can simply allow them to be, and in that allowance, we find a deep and unshakable peace. Let us return to Kian. He has left the meditation hall with Jin, the image of the empty chair etched into his heart. A sense of lightness accompanies him, a feeling he has not known for years. The world seems brighter, the colors of the evening sky more vivid. The weight of being Kian, the failed potter, has been lifted. But as he walks back to his small hut to prepare for the night, he notices the old habits of mind beginning to stir. A thought arises. That was a nice feeling in the hall, but it won't last. Tomorrow, at the wheel, the frustration will return. He feels a familiar clenching in his stomach. The ghost is already knocking at the door. He immediately begins to worry about this thought. He starts to build a new story. I have understood the teaching, but I am not good enough to practice it. I will fail at this too. The spaciousness he felt just moments before begins to shrink, replaced by the old, familiar anxiety. The next morning, he meets Jin by the temple's small, tranquil garden. A gentle mist hangs in the air, and the stones are slick with dew. Jin is not looking at the carefully raked sand or the ancient, moss-covered lanterns. He is looking up at the sky. Good morning, Kian, Jin says, without taking his eyes from the heavens. Tell me what you see up there. Kian looks up. The sky is a soft, pale blue, and a few white, wispy clouds are drifting slowly from west to east, carried by a wind he cannot feel down on the ground. I see the sky, Master, Kian says, and a few clouds. Ah, yes, Jin says, a soft smile on his face. The sky and the clouds. Are they the same thing? No, Kian replies. The sky is the space. The clouds are just in the sky. Exactly, Jin says, finally turning his gaze to meet Kian's. And does the sky have to do anything to the clouds? Does it have to push them along or hold them in place? No, Kian says. The wind moves them. The sky just lets them be. And what happens if a dark storm cloud appears? Jin asks. A big, heavy cloud full of rain and thunder. Does the sky become the storm cloud? Kian thinks for a moment. No, the storm cloud is in the sky, but the sky itself is not the storm. The blue sky is still there, behind the cloud, around the cloud. It is untouched by the storm. This is the practice of mindfulness, Jin says, his voice as calm as the morning air. Your mind, your true nature, is like this vast, open, peaceful sky. It is always here. It is your natural state. Your thoughts, your feelings, your worries, your judgments, they're like the clouds. They're not you. They're just weather patterns passing through the sky of your mind. He gestures for Kian to sit with him on a smooth, flat rock at the edge of the garden. Yesterday, Jin continues, you saw that the chair was empty. You experienced the vastness of the sky. But then, a little cloud drifted by. A thought that said, "This feeling won't last." And what did you do? You jumped off the ground. You grabbed onto that cloud and you tried to wrestle with it. You identified with it. You believed you were the cloud. And so, you felt the turbulence of the storm within you. Kian nods, remembering the familiar spiral of anxiety from the night before. "Yes, Master. That is exactly what happened. How do I stop doing that?" "You do not stop," Jin says gently. "You simply notice. The practice is to remain on the ground, as the sky, and to watch the clouds as they pass. When a thought arises, you do not have to become the thought. You can simply label it, gently and without judgment, like a scientist observing the weather. A thought of worry appears. You can say to yourself, "Ah, worrying." Not, "I am worried," but simply, "Worrying is happening now." You see it as an event, a cloud drifting through your awareness. You acknowledge its presence, and then you let it go. You do not follow it. You do not analyze it. You do not fight it. You simply return your attention to the vast open sky. "And what is the sky?" Kian asks. "The sky is your breath," Jin replies. "It is the feeling of the air entering your nostrils, filling your lungs. It is the sensation of your body sitting on this rock. It is the sound of the birds singing in the trees. The sky is the reality of this present moment. The clouds are the stories about the past and the future. The practice is to continually, gently, and kindly return your awareness to the present moment, to the sky, not the clouds." Later that day, Kian sits at his potter's wheel. He centers a piece of clay, and as his hands begin to work, he tries to practice what Jin has taught him. He focuses on the feeling of the wet, spinning earth under his palms. He listens to the rhythmic whir of the wheel. He feels his breath moving in and out. For a few moments, there is only the dance. Then, a cloud appears. The rim is becoming uneven. He feels the familiar lurch of frustration. But this time, he tries something different. Instead of grabbing onto the thought, instead of letting it become the story of his failure, he gently notes it in his mind. "Ah, a thought of judgment." And then he brings his attention back. Back to the feeling of the clay, back to the sound of the wheel, back to his breath. The thought does not vanish instantly. It lingers at the edge of his awareness, but because he is not feeding it with more stories, because he is not identifying with it, it begins to lose its power. It becomes just a wisp of cloud in a vast sky. A few moments later, another cloud drifts by. "You will never be as good as Jin." He notes it. Ah, a thought of comparison. And he returns his attention to his hands. He does this again and again, dozens, perhaps hundreds of times. A thought of impatience, a memory of a past mistake, a worry about what others will think of his work. Each time he practices this gentle noticing, thinking, worrying, remembering. And each time, he guides his awareness back to the physical sensations of the present moment. It is not a fight. It is a gentle redirection, as if he were training a small, beloved puppy to sit. You do not scold the puppy when it wanders off. You simply, kindly, and patiently guide it back. Slowly, over the course of the afternoon, something remarkable begins to happen. The space between the thoughts grows longer. The workshop, which was once a noisy battlefield of self-judgment, becomes quieter. It is not an empty quiet, but a rich, full silence. He can hear the birds outside the window. He can smell the scent of the drying clay. He is more present, more alive in the moment than he has ever been. And his hands, free from the tension of his judging mind, move with a new grace and confidence. The bowls he creates that afternoon have a simple, honest beauty. They are not perfect. They still bear the marks of his hands. But they are no longer the artifacts of a struggle. They are the expressions of a quiet, focused presence. As you lie here tonight, preparing for sleep, you can become the silent observer of your own mind. Your awareness is the sky, vast, open, and at peace. Your thoughts are the clouds. Let them come and go. Perhaps a cloud of worry about tomorrow appears, a list of things to do, a conversation you are not looking forward to. Do not try to push it away. Simply notice it. Planning, worrying. Acknowledge it, like you would acknowledge a cloud in the sky. And then, gently, bring your attention back to the anchor of your breath. Feel the air, cool as it enters, warm as it leaves. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. This is your sky. This is the present moment. Perhaps a cloud of regret about today drifts by. A word you wish you had not said. An action you wish you had taken differently. Do not get lost in the story. Do not climb onto the cloud and let it carry you into a storm of self-blame. Simply notice it. Remembering, regretting. And then, with infinite kindness for yourself, guide your awareness back to the feeling of the blankets against your skin, the softness of the pillow beneath your head, the simple, undeniable reality of being here, now, safely in your bed. This practice of observation creates a profound relaxation. When you are not entangled in your thoughts, your body can finally let go. The muscles that tense up when you worry can soften. The heart that beats faster with anxiety can slow to a calm, steady rhythm. You are creating a space between you and your thoughts. In this space, you find peace. In this space, you find rest. You are not your thoughts. You are the sky that holds them. The sky is not afraid of the storm. It knows that the storm is a temporary visitor, and that its own vast, blue, peaceful nature is never touched, never harmed. So rest now as the sky. Let the clouds of the day drift by. Let them dissolve into the vastness of your own quiet awareness. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to figure out. You are simply the silent, peaceful observer, watching, breathing, resting. And as you rest in this spacious, silent awareness, you allow yourself to be carried gently and effortlessly into the deep, clear, star-filled night of peaceful sleep. Of course, I will expand upon the practice of mindfulness, adding more depth and narrative detail to bring the part closer to the 3,000-word target. Slowly, over the course of the afternoon, something remarkable begins to happen. The space between the thoughts grows longer. The workshop, which was once a noisy battlefield of self-judgment, becomes quieter. It is not an empty quiet, but a rich, full silence. He can hear the birds outside the window. He can smell the scent of the drying clay. He is more present, more alive in the moment than he has ever been. And his hands, free from the tension of his judging mind, move with a new grace and confidence.
The bowls he creates that afternoon have a simple, honest beauty. They are not perfect. They still bear the marks of his hands, but they are no longer the artifacts of a struggle. They are the expressions of a quiet, focused presence. That evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Jin found Qian not in his workshop, but sitting on the same rock by the garden, looking up at the sky. The clouds were different now, thicker and slower, their edges glowing with the last light of the day. "The clouds have changed," Jin said, his voice a quiet presence beside Qian. "Yes, master," Qian replied, not taking his eyes from the sky. "They are slower now, heavier. But the sky is the same." "And what of the clouds in here?" Jin asked, gently tapping his own chest. "What did you observe in your workshop today?" Qian took a slow, deep breath. The evening air cooled and calming. "They came, master. So many of them. Clouds of doubt, clouds of frustration, even a few little clouds of pride when a bowl turned out well. At first, I kept forgetting. I would see a cloud and immediately start running after it, trying to catch it or push it away. I would find myself lost in a story for minutes at a time before I even realized I had left the ground. "This is normal," Jin said. "The mind's habit of chasing clouds is very strong. Did you become discouraged?" "A little," Qian admitted. Another cloud appeared, a cloud of judgment about my mindfulness practice itself. It said, "You are not good at this either." But then I remembered what you said about the puppy. I tried not to scold myself. I just gently noted, judging, and brought my attention back to my hands on the clay. And each time I did it, it seemed a little easier. The cloud seemed less solid, less personal. "This is a very important discovery," Jin said, sitting down on the rock next to him. "You begin to see that thoughts are just thoughts. They are not commands. They are not truths. They are simply mental events, like sounds or smells. A bird sings, you hear it. You do not have to compose a symphony in response. A thought of worry arises. You notice it. You do not have to build a cathedral of catastrophe around it. You are learning to change your relationship with your thoughts. You are moving from being a character in the drama to being the audience, watching the play with a calm and gentle interest." Qian contemplated this. The idea that his thoughts were not personal commands was revolutionary. His inner critic had always spoken with such authority, as if its pronouncements were undeniable facts. But now he was seeing them as something else. Impersonal, conditioned patterns, like the patterns of the weather. "Sometimes, master," Qian said, "a thought would come that was very sticky. A memory of a particularly cruel word my father once said about my work. That cloud was not light and wispy. It felt like a great, dark storm cloud. It was very hard not to be pulled into its rain and wind." "Yes," Jin affirmed, his gaze deep and compassionate. "Some clouds carry a heavier charge. They are connected to old wounds. With these clouds, the practice is the same, but it requires even more gentleness. When such a cloud appears, you do not try to face it with force. You simply acknowledge its presence with great kindness. I see you, memory of pain. I feel the ache you bring. You do not have to delve into the story. You simply notice the feeling it creates in your body. A tightness in the chest, a heat in the face.
You breathe with that physical sensation, holding it in a gentle, spacious awareness. You offer it your calm presence, just as the sky offers its vastness to the storm. You will find that even the darkest storm cloud, when met with the accepting stillness of the sky, eventually passes. It spends its energy and dissolves back into the emptiness from which it came. This was a profound comfort to Kian. He had spent so much of his life either running from these painful memories or endlessly replaying them, trying to argue with the past. The idea that he could simply be present with the feeling, without being consumed by the story, offered a new and peaceful path. It was a way to honor his own history without being imprisoned by it. As you lie here, on the edge of sleep, you can offer yourself this same gentle attention. The day is done, and the clouds of its events are drifting through the sky of your mind. Some may be light and fleeting, a quick thought about a conversation, a brief image from your commute. Others may be heavier, carrying the charge of a difficult moment or a lingering worry. Your only task now is to rest as the sky. Let your body be soft, your breath be easy. When a thought cloud appears, notice its texture. Is it a worry cloud, full of sharp edges and fast movement? Is it a memory cloud, soft-focused and tinged with emotion? Is it a planning cloud, full of lists and schedules? You do not need to do anything about them. Simply notice. Ah, this is the shape of worry. This is the texture of memory. And then, always, you return to the anchor of the present moment. Return to the sky. Feel the simple, physical reality of your body resting. Notice the subtle sensations, the air on your skin, the contact points between your body and the bed, the gentle, rhythmic pulse of life within you. This is your refuge. This is your peace. The thoughts are not you. The feelings are not you. You are the silent, loving awareness that is witnessing it all. This practice is the ultimate act of self-love. You are no longer demanding that your mind be quiet. You are no longer scolding yourself for having anxious or unhappy thoughts. You are allowing your inner world to be exactly as it is, and you are holding all of it, the sunshine and the storms, in a vast, unconditional, and peaceful embrace. This acceptance is what allows the storms to pass. This gentle, non-judgmental observation is what quiets the inner critic. You are not fighting the darkness. You are simply turning your attention to the ever-present light. Rest now in this vast, open sky of your own being. There is infinite space here for every thought, every feeling, every sensation. Nothing needs to be pushed away. Nothing needs to be fixed. You are whole and complete, just as you are, with all your clouds. Let them drift. Let them dissolve. And let the deep, quiet peace of the sky be the gentle lullaby that carries you into a profoundly restful sleep. Part 4. The First Embrace. The Warmth of Loving Kindness. Breathe in the quiet of the night. Breathe out the echoes of the day. You have settled into a place of stillness, a vast and open sky where the clouds of thought can drift by without disturbance. You have become the silent observer, and in this spacious awareness, a deep calm can begin to take root. This is a profound and healing peace. Yet sometimes this inner sky, though clear, can feel cool and distant. The absence of struggle is a great relief, but it is not the same as the presence of warmth. We have cleared the garden of our mind from the choking weeds of self-judgment, but the soil now lies fallow, waiting. What flowers shall we plant in this newly opened ground? How do we invite the sun to warm this quiet landscape? This is where our journey takes a gentle, beautiful turn. We move from the wisdom of seeing things as they are to the active cultivation of a warm and benevolent heart. This practice is known as metta, a word often translated as loving kindness. It is not a romantic love, nor is it a conditional affection. It is a steady, unconditional well-wishing, a gentle friendliness directed toward all of life. And the practice of metta always begins in one place, with ourselves. It is the first, tender embrace we offer to our own being. It is the act of learning to be our own best friend. Let us find Kian once more. Several weeks have passed since his conversations with Jin. He has been diligently practicing mindfulness at his potter's wheel and in his daily life. The workshop is a different place now. The air of frantic struggle has been replaced by a quiet, focused attention. He is more patient. He is more present. When the inner critic speaks, he recognizes its voice, notes it as judging, and gently returns to his work. He is no longer at war with himself. He has, for the most part, declared a truce. Yet, one afternoon, as he sits sipping tea and watching the rain fall in steady silver threads outside his door, he notices a subtle emptiness. He has stopped attacking himself, but he has not yet learned to actively support himself. He feels a neutrality toward his own being that is peaceful, but not joyful. Earlier that day, he had seen another potter from the village sell a particularly beautiful set of vases, and while he did not fall into his old patterns of harsh comparison, he felt a familiar, hollow ache of envy. He observed the feeling, as Jin had taught him, but he did not know what to do with the ache that remained. It was like watching a small, shivering child from a distance, acknowledging its coldness, but not knowing how to offer it a warm blanket. He seeks out Jin, finding the old monk sweeping fallen leaves from the stone path of the temple garden. The rhythmic, whispering sound of the bamboo broom is the only sound in the damp air. Kian waits until Jin pauses and turns to him with a knowing smile. "The sky is clear, but the air is cool, Kian," Jin asks, leaning his broom against the garden wall. Kian is no longer surprised by his master's perception. He nods. "Yes, master. I've been watching the clouds. I am no longer so lost in the storms. But I do not know how to create sunshine. I feel a cold peace. I see my own struggles, my own aches, as just more clouds to observe. But my heart feels distant. It does not know how to help." Jin's smile deepens. "You have learned the first wing of the bird, which is wisdom. The wisdom to see clearly without delusion. This wing allows the bird to be steady in the wind, but a bird cannot fly with only one wing. The other wing is compassion, karuna, and its foundation is metta, loving kindness. Wisdom clears the space. Loving kindness fills that space with warmth and light. You have weeded the garden. Now it is time to plant flowers." He leads Kian to a small veranda overlooking the rain-washed garden. The scent of wet earth and pine fills the air. They sit on the smooth wooden planks, and Jin pours them both a cup of steaming tea. Metta is the simple, heartfelt wish for well-being, Jin explains. It is the sun's warmth. The sun does not choose which plants to shine upon. It does not ask if a flower is worthy of its light, or if a stone has earned its warmth. It simply shines. This capacity for warmth, for unconditional well-wishing, is not something you need to invent. It is already within you. It is your own true nature. The practice is simply to learn how to let it shine on yourself. But how? Kian asks. It feels strange, selfish even, to wish good things for myself. Does a mother feel selfish for wanting her child to be happy? Jin counters gently. Does a gardener feel selfish for watering his own plants? You are a living being, just like any other. You are deserving of your own kindness. The journey of metta often begins not with the head, but with the heart. We must first find the feeling, the seed of this warmth that is already inside you. Jin closes his eyes for a moment. Kian, bring to mind a being for whom you feel a simple, uncomplicated affection. A being you can wish well for, easily and naturally. Perhaps a beloved pet from your childhood, or a dear friend, or even a stranger you saw today who looked kind. Do not choose someone with whom your relationship is complicated. Find someone or something that makes your heart feel soft. Kian closes his eyes. He thinks of his master, but his feelings there are mixed with awe and a sense of his own inadequacy. He thinks of his parents, but that relationship is woven with a complex history. Then a memory surfaces, clear and warm. A few years ago, during a harsh winter, he had found a tiny, half-frozen kitten huddled by his kiln for warmth. He had taken it in, fed it warm milk with a dropper, and wrapped it in soft rags in a small basket by the fire. He remembers the feeling of its tiny body, the faint rumble of its purr as it grew stronger. He remembers the pure, uncomplicated wish in his heart for this tiny creature to be safe, to be warm, to live. I have one, Kian says softly. A small kitten I once cared for. Excellent, Jin says. Now, stay with that memory. Do not focus on the story, but on the feeling it generated in your own body. As you held that small creature, as you wished for it to be well, where did you feel that in yourself? Was it a warmth in your chest, a softness in your face, a feeling of gentle expansion? Kian focuses inward. He can feel it, a distinct, gentle warmth spreading out from the center of his chest. His shoulders, usually so tense, feel a little softer. The corners of his mouth want to turn up in a faint smile. I feel it in my chest, he says. It is warm. Good, Jin says. This is the seed of metta. This is your own innate capacity for loving kindness. Now, for the bravest and most important step, can you, just for a moment, offer that same warmth to yourself? Can you turn that gentle, well-wishing gaze inward? Kian tries. He tries to direct the warm feeling from his chest toward his own being. And immediately, a wall goes up. A thought cloud, dark and swift, rushes in. You do not deserve this. Look at all your flaws. This is self-indulgent. The warmth in his chest vanishes, replaced by the familiar cold knot of self-judgment. He opens his eyes, his face a mask of frustration. I cannot. The old voice is too strong. It tells me I am unworthy of such kindness. Jin nods, his expression full of empathy. This is the most common and difficult step for so many. The inner critic is a very old and powerful guard. It believes its job is to protect you by keeping you small. We will not fight this guard. We will simply walk around it. Let us try another way. Instead of directing the feeling to the grand idea of yourself, let us direct it to the part of you that is suffering right now. Bring to mind the Kian who sits at the wheel, feeling frustrated and clumsy. Can you picture him? Kian can. He sees a clear image of himself from the day before, shoulders hunched, jaw tight, staring at a misshapen bowl. He feels a wave of the familiar self-disgust. Now, Jin says, his voice a soft, steady guide. Think of that, Kian, as you thought of the small, shivering kitten. He is not a failure. He is a being who is struggling. He is in pain. He is cold. Can you offer that struggling self the same simple wish you offered the kitten? Can you find it in your heart to wish him peace? This feels different. It feels possible. He is not wishing well upon some abstract, flawed self, but upon a specific moment of suffering. He connects again to the warmth he felt for the kitten, that simple wish for it to be free from suffering. Then, gently, he offers that same wish to the image of the frustrated potter in his mind. He begins to silently repeat a few simple phrases, as if whispering them to that struggling part of himself. May you be safe. May you be free from this inner struggle. May you be happy. May you be at ease. At first, the words feel hollow, mechanical, but he persists, returning again and again to the memory of the kitten, to the genuine feeling of warmth in his chest. And then something shifts. A tiny flicker. A small, tender wave of compassion washes over the image of the frustrated potter. It is not a huge, transformative event, but a subtle, profound softening. The knot of self-judgment loosens its grip just a little. A single tear escapes from his closed eye and traces a warm path down his cheek. He is not crying from sadness, but from a quiet, startling sense of release. He has offered himself the first, tentative embrace. As you lie here now, wrapped in the stillness of the night, you can offer this same embrace to yourself. The practice of metta is a gentle lullaby for the heart. Begin by finding your own seed of warmth. Bring to mind a being you love easily, a beloved pet, a child, a dear friend, a beautiful place in nature. Let the memory fill you, and notice where you feel that gentle, positive emotion in your body. Let it gather in your heart center, a soft, glowing light. There is no need to force it, just allow it to be present. This is your own goodness, your own innate capacity for love. Now, with great tenderness, let that light, that warmth begin to shine inward. You can place a hand on your heart if it helps, a gesture of gentle friendship, and you can begin to offer yourself a few simple, powerful phrases. Silently, gently, repeat in your mind, may I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. As you say these words, you may feel what Kian felt, a sense of awkwardness, a voice that says you do not deserve it. This is perfectly okay. Do not fight this voice. Simply notice it as another cloud and gently return to your phrases. The intention is more important than the feeling. You are planting the seeds. The flowers will bloom in their own time. If it feels too difficult to offer this kindness to your whole self, then do as Kian did. Bring to mind a part of you that has struggled today.
the part of you that felt anxious in a meeting, the part of you that felt tired and overwhelmed, the part of you that felt lonely. See that part of yourself with the same compassion you would have for a small, crying child, and offer the phrases to that part. May this anxious part of me be at peace. May this tired part of me find rest. May this lonely part of me feel connection and warmth. You are not trying to fix anything. You are not trying to get rid of these feelings. You are simply holding them in a warm, loving embrace. You are offering them the healing balm of your own kindness. This is the most profound form of self-care. It is a deep and gentle nourishment for the soul. Feel the warmth of this practice begin to soften your body. Feel it in your chest, your shoulders, your belly. Let it be a gentle, radiant heat that melts away any remaining tension. You are worthy of your own kindness. You are deserving of your own care. You are allowed to wish yourself well. Let these phrases be the last gentle current of the evening, a soft and soothing river carrying you toward the ocean of sleep.
May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Let this loving kindness be the blanket that covers you, the peace that surrounds you, as you drift into a deep, healing, and truly compassionate rest. Of course, I will expand on Keon's experience with the metta practice, adding more depth to his process and the master's guidance to meet the word count. A single tear escapes from his closed eye and traces a warm path down his cheek. He is not crying from sadness, but from a quiet, startling sense of release. He has offered himself the first tentative embrace. He opened his eyes and looked at Jin. The old monk was watching him, his gaze as soft and steady as the gentle rain that still fell on the garden. There was no praise in his eyes, no expectation, only a quiet, shared understanding. "The heart knows the way," Jin said simply. "Even a single drop of this warmth is enough to begin healing the most ancient of wounds." Keon wiped the tear from his cheek, a feeling of fragile wonder settling within him. "It felt real," he said, his voice quiet. For just a moment, the voice of the critic was silent. There was only this gentle wish for peace. "And what did you notice in your body when that happened?" Jin asked, guiding him back to the physical experience. Keon took a moment to check in with himself. "The tightness in my chest is gone. My shoulders feel lower. I can breathe more deeply. It is as if a heavy stone I did not even know I was carrying has been lifted." "This is the power of metta," Jin explained. "It is not just a pleasant thought. It is a state of being that changes us physically and mentally. The inner critic thrives in a cold, tense environment. It is like a winter weed. Loving kindness is like the sun and the spring rain. It creates an inner environment where the critic cannot so easily take root. It softens the ground of your being." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the rain. Keon felt the lingering warmth in his chest, a gentle ember he wanted to protect. A new question began to form in his mind. "Master," he began, "is this something I should only do when I feel the pain of the critic? Is it a medicine for suffering?" Jin shook his head slowly. "It is a wonderful medicine for suffering, yes. But more than that, it is daily nourishment. You do not wait until you are starving to eat. You do not wait until you are parched to drink. You must feed your heart this kindness every day, especially on the days you feel you do not meet it. You practice when the sky is clear, so that when the storms come, you have a deep reservoir of warmth to draw upon. It becomes a habit of the heart. He gestured to the garden before them. Look at this moss on the stones. It did not grow in a single day. It grew through countless days of mist and rain and morning dew. It grew through a steady, gentle, persistent application of moisture. Your practice of metta is like this. Each time you offer yourself these phrases, you are adding another drop of moisture to the garden of your heart. Over time, a beautiful, soft, resilient quality will grow within you, a quality that can withstand both the harshest sun and the coldest frost. Keon understood. It was not a grand gesture, but a small, consistent practice. Like tending to a bonsai tree, it required daily, gentle attention. So, I should practice every day? Keon asked. Every day, Jin confirmed. Perhaps in the morning, before you begin your work, to set a tone of kindness for the day. And perhaps at night, before you sleep, to soothe the wounds of the day and prepare for a peaceful rest. You can begin just as we did now. Connect with the feeling of warmth for another being, and then gently, patiently, turn that warmth toward yourself. Some days it will feel easy and the warmth will flow. Other days it will feel like you are whispering to a stone wall. It does not matter. You do the practice anyway. You offer the words. You set the intention. The consistency is what softens the stone over time. As you lie here, feeling the gentle glow of your own metta practice, you can take this wisdom into your heart. This is not a one-time fix, but a lifelong friendship you are cultivating with yourself. You are learning a new language, the language of inner kindness, and it takes time to become fluent. Be patient with yourself. On some nights, the phrases, "May I be happy, may I be safe," will resonate deeply, filling you with a profound sense of peace and self-acceptance. On other nights, they might feel empty, and the clouds of doubt might be thick. On those nights, especially, the practice is an act of profound courage and love. To offer yourself kindness, even when you feel you do not deserve it, is the most powerful gesture of all. Remember the moss on the stone. Each gentle repetition of these phrases is another drop of healing moisture. You are slowly, steadily transforming the inner landscape from a harsh, rocky terrain into a soft, green, and welcoming sanctuary. You are creating a home within yourself, a place you can always return to, a place of unconditional warmth and safety. Let this practice be the final, gentle act of your day, a quiet promise to yourself to be a friend, to be an ally, to meet your own life with an open and benevolent heart. Let the warmth from your own heart be the most comforting blanket of all. Let it soothe every cell of your body, quiet every corner of your mind, and carry you with infinite tenderness into the deep, restorative peace of sleep. Part 5. Tending to our wounds. The practice of self-compassion. Subordinate. Set back into the quiet embrace of your bed, allowing the gentle rhythm of your breath to be your only guide. You are resting in the soft, warm light of metta, the unconditional, loving kindness that you have begun to offer yourself. This warmth is a sanctuary, a foundation of inner friendship that can hold you through the changing weather of your days. It is the practice of wishing yourself well. But what happens when a storm does arrive? What do we do when we make a mistake, when we feel the sharp sting of failure, or when an old wound is touched and begins to ache? Wishing for sunshine is beautiful, but what is the practice for when you find yourself shivering in the rain? This is where our journey deepens. We move from the gentle wish of metta to the active response of karuna, or compassion. If metta is the warmth of the sun, karuna is the gentle hand that reaches out to tend to a wound. It is the desire to alleviate suffering, to soothe pain, to be present with what hurts. It is the brave and tender act of turning toward our own suffering, not with judgment or analysis, but with the same gentle care we would offer to someone we love dearly. Self-compassion is not self-pity or indulgence. It is a source of profound strength, resilience, and healing. It is learning how to be a safe harbor for yourself when the seas of life become rough. Let us return to Kian's village. A season has passed. The rains have given way to the warm, golden days of late summer. Kian has been practicing metta daily. In the morning, he sits for a few moments and offers himself wishes for the day. At his wheel, when he feels a moment of ease, he whispers inwardly, "May I be at peace." The constant low-grade war with himself has subsided into a quiet, workable peace. He feels more settled, more at home in his own skin. His work has improved, not because he is forcing it, but because he is more relaxed. His newfound confidence leads the head monk of the main temple to give him a special commission: a set of 12 matched bowls for an important upcoming ceremony. This is the greatest honor Kian has ever received. For weeks, he works with a joyful, focused energy he has never known. He chooses the finest clay, prepares it with meticulous care, and throws each bowl with a steady hand. The 12 greenware bowls, drying on their planks, are the most beautiful things he has ever made. They are simple, elegant, and full of a quiet grace. The day comes to fire them in the kiln. This is the moment of greatest risk and greatest transformation. The potter must surrender his work to the fire, trusting that the intense heat will turn the fragile clay into enduring stoneware. Kian carefully loads the kiln, his heart a mixture of hope and fear. He seals the door and lights the fire, and for a full day and night he tends the flames, feeding the kiln wood, watching the smoke, feeling the immense heat radiating from the brick. Finally, the firing is done. He must wait another full day for the kiln to cool enough to be opened. It is a day of agonizing suspense. The old voices of doubt, long quieted, begin to whisper at the edges of his mind. He tries to meet them with metta, but his anxiety is a loud hum that makes it difficult to find the warmth. The next morning, with the head monk and even Jin standing by, Kian unbricks the kiln door. A wave of heat washes over him. He reaches in with his long tongs and pulls out the first bowl. A sharp, collective intake of breath is the only sound. A hairline crack, fine as a spider's thread, runs from the rim to the base. His heart sinks. He pulls out another. This one is worse. A large piece has flaked off the side. He pulls out a third, a fourth, all 12. Every single one is ruined. A flaw in the clay or a mistake in the firing, it doesn't matter. The result is the same. Total failure. The head monk places a consoling hand on his shoulder and says a few kind words before leaving. But Kian barely hears him. He stands before the open kiln, the 12 broken bowls at his feet, and a storm of self-hatred erupts within him, more violent than any he has ever known.
The voice of the inner critic is no longer a whisper. It is a deafening roar.
You are a fraud, an imposter. You are worthless. You have shamed yourself. You have shamed your master.
The warmth of metta is a distant memory, a forgotten language. There is only the searing heat of his own shame. He feels an overwhelming urge to take a hammer and smash the bowls, and himself into dust. He turns and flees, running from the workshop, from the sight of his failure, from the crushing weight of his own heart. He finds himself at the river, his chest heaving, his vision blurred with tears of rage and despair. He sits on the cold stones, his head in his hands, utterly lost. After a long time, he feels a quiet presence beside him. It is Jin. The old monk does not speak, but simply sits with him, his stillness a silent container for Kian's immense pain. Finally, Kian speaks, his voice raw. I failed. Everything you taught me. It is useless. I cannot find the warmth. I cannot find the peace. There is only this poison. I hate myself for this. Jin listens, his expression one of deep, unwavering compassion. When Kian is finished, he speaks, his voice as gentle as the flowing water. Yes, he says, this is a moment of great suffering. Your heart is in pain. Metta, the wish for well-being, is a beautiful thing to offer a heart that is at peace. But for a heart that is wounded and bleeding, it needs a more direct medicine. It needs karuna. It needs compassion. But how can I be compassionate with this? Kian gestures wildly, as if to encompass his entire being. This is a failure. It deserves to be condemned. Let us look more closely, Jin says. Right now, you see yourself as one solid thing, a failed potter. But is that all that is here? Inside of you, there is a part that is in tremendous pain. A part that tried so hard, that hoped so deeply, and is now heartbroken. Imagine that part of you is not an adult, but a small child. A little boy who built a beautiful sandcastle, and then watched as a wave washed it all away. What would you do if you saw that little boy sitting here, weeping? Kian is silent. He pictures the scene. A small, heartbroken child. Would you stand over him and shout, "You are a worthless sandcastle builder! You are a disgrace!" Jin asks softly. Would that help him? Would that heal his pain? No, Kian whispers. Of course not. What would you do? Jin persists gently. I would kneel down, Kian says, his voice thick with emotion. I would put my arm around his shoulder. I would tell him it's okay to be sad. I would tell him he made a beautiful castle, and that I'm sorry it was washed away. Yes, Jin says, his eyes shining. That is karuna. That is compassion. And that is what you must learn to do for yourself. The great failure is not the broken pots. The great failure is to abandon that weeping child inside you in his moment of need. Jin guides him through the practice. First, he says, you must turn toward the pain, not away from it. Acknowledge it. Say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. This hurts. You do not have to like it, but you must be willing to be with it. This is the mindfulness of suffering. Second, he continues, you must remember what we call common humanity.
Remind yourself that making mistakes is part of being human. Every potter who has ever lived has opened a kiln to find disaster. Every human being who has ever lived has known the pain of failure and disappointment. You are not alone in this. This feeling connects you to everyone. It does not isolate you. This softens the sharp, isolating sting of shame. And third, Jin concludes, you offer yourself kindness. You do what you would do for that child. You can place a hand over your heart, a gesture of physical comfort, and you speak to yourself with words of kindness. Not praise, not denial, but simple, gentle kindness. You can say, "This is so hard right now. I am so sorry you are hurting. You did the best you could." Sitting there on the riverbank, Qian tries. He closes his eyes and lets himself feel the full force of his pain. "This hurts," he whispers. He thinks of all the artisans, all the people who have felt this same despair. I am not alone. Then, he tentatively places a hand on his own chest, over his aching heart. He pictures the little boy, devastated by his broken creation, and he offers him the words. "It's okay. You tried so hard. It is so painful, I know." A profound shift occurs within him. The rage does not vanish, nor does the disappointment, but the fierce, violent energy of self-hatred begins to subside. It is as if a cool, soothing balm is being applied to a raw burn. By turning toward his pain with kindness, he has transformed it. He is no longer fighting himself. He is holding himself. He is being his own refuge. The storm is still raging, but he has found a safe harbor within it. As you lie here now, preparing for sleep, you can learn to be this safe harbor for yourself. Life inevitably brings moments of pain. A harsh word from another, a mistake at work, a feeling of falling short, a memory of an old grief. In these moments, your own inner child may be weeping. Your practice of self-compassion is the act of learning to hear that cry and respond with love. Gently, bring to mind a small difficulty you may have experienced today, or a lingering hurt you may be carrying. Do not choose your biggest trauma, just a moment of discomfort, a small pebble in your shoe. Now, let us practice the 3 steps of karuna together. First, acknowledge the feeling. Without judgment, simply say to yourself, "This is a moment of suffering. This is stressful. This is painful." Allow the feeling to be here, just for a moment, without needing to fix it or push it away. Second, connect with common humanity. Gently remind yourself, suffering is a part of life. Other people feel this way too. It is not abnormal to feel this. Making mistakes is part of being human. Feel the way this simple truth can lessen the burden of isolation. You are part of a vast family of imperfect, struggling, beautiful human beings. And third, offer yourself kindness. You can place a hand on your heart, or wherever you feel the discomfort in your body. Feel the warmth of your own touch, and offer yourself some words of gentle compassion. You can find the words that feel right for you. Perhaps, "May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. It's okay. You are doing the best you can." Breathe with this. Feel the way this gentle response can soothe your nervous system. Feel the softening in your body. You are not condoning a mistake or wallowing in self-pity. You are giving yourself the emotional resource you need to cope, to learn, and to move forward with resilience and grace. This is how we tend to our own wounds, not by ignoring them, not by judging them, but by meeting them with a brave and tender heart. When you know how to do this for yourself, you become unshakable. You know that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself. You will always have a source of comfort, strength, and unconditional love to come home to. Let this gentle, compassionate presence be the last thing you feel tonight. Let it be the soft ground that holds you, the quiet lullaby that soothes you as you let go of the day and drift into a deep, healing, and profoundly peaceful sleep. Of course, I will expand the scene with Kian and Jin, delving deeper into the nuances of self-compassion to meet the target word count. The storm is still raging, but he has found a safe harbor within it. He sat there for a long time, held by the silence of the river and the quiet presence of his master. The tears that now flowed were not tears of rage, but of a quiet, cleansing grief. He was grieving the broken bowls, yes, but he was also grieving for all the years he had been so cruel to himself, for all the times he had abandoned that inner child in moments of pain. After a while, he looked up at Jin, his eyes red but clear. "The pain is still there," he said. "The disappointment, it is a great weight. But the hatred is gone. It is as if the pain is now just a clean wound, instead of a poisoned one." "A very beautiful way to put it," Jin said, nodding. "Self-hatred is the poison we pour into our own wounds, believing it will somehow cauterize them. But it only ever deepens the infection. Compassion is the clean water that allows the wound to heal in its own time. The pain of loss and failure is natural. It is the price of caring, the price of trying. The suffering of self-hatred is extra. It is optional. It is the suffering we add on top of our pain." Kian thought about this. The distinction was profound. The pain of the broken bowls was unavoidable. The suffering he had layered on top of it, the stories of his worthlessness, the brutal self-criticism, was a choice, a habit he was only now learning to undo. "But Master," Kian asked, a new uncertainty in his voice, "I have a fear. If I am too kind to myself when I fail, will I not become lazy? Will I lose my motivation to improve? The critic, for all its cruelty, always pushed me to be better. It was the fire under my feet. If I replace it with this gentleness, would I not just become complacent and accept mediocrity?" This was a deep and common fear, the fear that self-criticism is necessary for growth. Jin looked at Kian with great understanding. "Let us return to the image of the child by the sea," he said. "You have comforted him. You have told him it is okay to be sad. Now, after his tears have subsided, what do you say to him next? Do you say, 'Well, that's that. You're clearly no good at sandcastles, so you should probably just sit here and never try again'?" "No," Kian said immediately. "Of course not." Or do you say, "Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. Any old pile of sand will do"? "No," Kian repeated. "That would not honor his effort." "So what would you say?" Jin asked. Kian considered it carefully. I think I would say, that was a wonderful castle. You worked so hard on it. What do you think happened? Do you think we built it too close to the water? Perhaps tomorrow we can try again,
and we can build it a little further up the beach. What do you think we could learn from this?" Jin beamed, a smile of pure delight. "Exactly. That is the voice of compassionate motivation. Do you see? It is not harsh or demanding, but it is also not permissive or lazy. It is encouraging. It is wise. It is resilient. It acknowledges the pain. It honors the effort. And it looks toward the future with a desire to learn and grow." Which voice do you think is a more effective teacher for that child? The cruel, shouting voice of the critic, or this kind, wise, encouraging one? The truth of it settled into Keon's bones. He had always believed that being hard on himself was the only way to improve. Now he saw that it had only ever created tension, fear, and a tightness that hindered his true potential. The critic's motivation was rooted in fear. You must do better or you are worthless. Compassion's motivation was rooted in care. I want you to be happy and to grow. So let's see what we can learn. One was a whip, the other a guiding hand. The critic creates a fear of failure, Jin continued. And when we are afraid to fail, we become afraid to take risks. We become afraid to be creative. We become afraid to try our best because the stakes of falling short are too high. Compassion creates a safety net. It tells you, if you fail, it will be painful, but I will be here to catch you. I will not abandon you. When you know you have that safety net, you are free to be brave. You are free to experiment. You are free to pour your whole heart into your work, knowing that your worth as a being does not hang in the balance. They walked back to the workshop together, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows. The 12 broken bowls still lay on the ground, a testament to his failure. But now, Keon looked at them with different eyes. The searing shame was gone. In its place was a quiet sadness, but also a flicker of curiosity. He picked up one of the cracked pieces, turning it over in his hands, examining the texture of the broken edge. He was no longer looking at a symbol of his worthlessness. He was looking at a lesson. As you rest here, on the threshold of sleep, allow this deeper understanding to settle into your being. Self-compassion is not a weakness. It is the source of your greatest strength. It is the foundation of true resilience. When you meet your own mistakes and shortcomings with this gentle, wise, and encouraging presence, you are giving yourself the greatest gift of all, the freedom to be human. You do not need to be perfect. You are allowed to be a work in progress. You are allowed to learn, to stumble, and to grow. And through it all, you can be your own kindest companion, your own wisest teacher, your own unwavering friend. Let this profound reassurance be the soft earth that holds you tonight. Let go of the need to be anything other than what you are right now, in this moment. A human being, worthy of kindness, worthy of rest. Let this gentle compassion dissolve the last tensions of the day and guide you into a sleep that is not just peaceful, but deeply healing and restorative. Part 6. The Quiet Smile. Finding Joy in Our Own Being. Let your body grow heavy, sinking into the soft comfort of your bed. The night is a vast, quiet ocean, and your breath is the gentle tide, pulling you away from the busy shore of the day. We have walked a path together, learning to hold our suffering with the gentle hands of karuna, or compassion. We have discovered that we can be a safe harbor for ourselves,
a kind friend in moments of pain and failure. This is a profound and necessary healing. But a life of peace is not built only on our capacity to endure hardship. It is also built on our ability to recognize and savor the light. A garden needs the gentle rain of compassion to soften the soil, but it also needs the warm sun of joy to bring forth the blossoms. This brings us to a beautiful, often overlooked quality of the heart. It is called mudita, which is usually translated as sympathetic or appreciative joy. Most often we think of mudita as the joy we feel for others' good fortune, the happiness we feel when a friend succeeds or a loved one is happy. This is a vital and beautiful practice that dissolves envy and connects us to one another. But there is another, more intimate form of mudita, one that is essential for true self-love. It is the practice of turning that appreciative joy inward. It is the quiet, gentle art of celebrating our own existence, of noticing and appreciating our own goodness, our own small successes, and the simple, miraculous fact of our own being. It is the quiet smile that arises not from a great achievement, but from a simple, heartfelt appreciation for ourselves, just as we are. Let us return to Kian. Months have passed since the disaster with the kiln. Guided by the wisdom of self-compassion, he did not abandon his craft. He treated the failure not as a verdict on his worth, but as a powerful lesson. He spent weeks studying, talking with other potters, and examining the broken shards of his bowls. He learned about the subtle properties of different clays, about the fickle nature of fire. His relationship with his work began to change. It was less about proving his worth and more about a deep, quiet process of learning and discovery. He began to throw new bowls, and he did so with a newfound sense of freedom. Because he was no longer terrified of failure, he was more willing to experiment. He tried a new glaze, a subtle celadon green he had long admired but been too afraid to attempt. He shaped the bowls with a gentle confidence, his hands moving with the memory of his past mistakes, but free from the weight of their shame. One bright autumn morning, he opened the kiln from a new firing. His heart was calm. He had done his best, and he had surrendered the outcome to the fire. Whatever he found inside, he knew he would meet it with compassion. He reached in and pulled out the first bowl. It was perfect. The celadon glaze was the color of a tranquil sea, with a delicate network of fine cracks like frost on a winter window. It was more beautiful than anything he had ever hoped to create. He pulled out another and another. All 12 were whole, sound, and luminous with a quiet inner light. A wave of relief and happiness washed over him. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction. But he noticed something curious. The feeling was fleeting. Almost as soon as the joy arose, the old voice of the critic, now much quieter but still present, began to hedge. "It's just luck," it whispered. "Don't get too proud. You'll probably mess up the next batch." He also felt a subtle anxiety. Now I have to do this again. Now there is an expectation. He found himself unable to simply rest in the good feeling, to savor his own success. He was already diminishing it, protecting himself from future disappointment. Later that day, he took the most beautiful of the new bowls and brought it, filled with wild berries, to Jin's small hut. The old monk accepted the gift with a gracious smile, his eyes shining as he admired the bowl's delicate beauty. "The fire was kind to you," Jin said, placing the bowl on his simple wooden table. Yes, Master, Qian said. I am very happy with them. But the happiness feels slippery. I cannot seem to hold on to it. My mind is already telling me it was a fluke or worrying about the future. I do not know how to simply be happy with what I have done. Jin nodded, a look of deep understanding on his face. You have learned to be a good friend to yourself in times of sorrow. That is karuna. Now, you must learn to be a good friend to yourself in times of joy. That is mudita. We are often better at comforting ourselves in our pain than we are at celebrating ourselves in our success. We fear that if we acknowledge our own goodness, we will become arrogant. We fear that if we savor our joy, we are inviting future sorrow. So we push the good feelings away, or we cover them with a blanket of worry. Yes, Qian said, the words resonating deeply. That is exactly it. Appreciative joy, mudita, is the practice of learning to savor, Jin explained. It is the art of letting the good things land. It is allowing yourself to feel the warmth of the sun without worrying that a cloud might eventually cover it. The sun is shining now, that is all. The joy is here now, that is all. How do I practice this? Qian asked. It begins with noticing, Jin said. Just as you learned to notice the thought clouds of judgment, you must learn to notice the small moments of goodness, both in your actions and in your being. We are conditioned to scan for threats, for problems, for what is wrong. We must retrain our minds to also scan for what is right, what is good, what is beautiful, especially within ourselves. Jin picked up the bowl Qian had brought him. Look at this bowl, Qian. Do not just see it as a successful outcome. See the journey that is held within its shape. See the patience it took to prepare the clay. See the courage it took to try a new glaze after your great failure. See the resilience that allowed you to return to the wheel. See the focus in your hands as you shaped it. These are not small things. These are qualities of a good and noble heart. You must learn to see and appreciate these qualities within yourself. He gestured for Qian to sit. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to try a small practice. Instead of reviewing your day for all the things you did wrong, I want you to gently scan your day for 3 things. First, a small success. It does not have to be a perfect bowl. Perhaps you simply centered the clay on your first try. Perhaps you were patient with a clumsy apprentice. Perhaps you simply remembered to be mindful of your breath for a few moments. Acknowledge it. Silently say to yourself, "That was good. I did that well." Let the feeling of satisfaction, however small, be felt in your body. Second, he continued, I want you to recall one of your own innate good qualities that you saw in action today. Perhaps it was your perseverance, your kindness to the temple cat, your honesty, your creativity. Name it. Today, I saw my own perseverance. Appreciate this quality as you would appreciate it in a dear friend. It is a treasure within you. And third, Jin concluded, I want you to appreciate the simple goodness of your own being. The simple fact that you have a heart that wants to learn and grow. The simple fact that your body is breathing, that your senses are working. Acknowledge the profound, simple gift of your own life, without any need for it to be perfect or accomplished. Simply appreciate that you are here. This is the practice of the quiet smile. It is not a smile of pride. It is a smile of gentle, loving recognition. That night, as Keon lay on his sleeping mat, he tried the practice. At first, his mind went blank. The old habit of searching for flaws was strong. But he gently persisted. A small success. He remembered helping an elderly woman carry her basket of vegetables in the market. He had not thought of it as a success, just a small act. But now, he allowed himself to feel a quiet warmth about it. That was a kind thing to do, he acknowledged. An innate good quality. He thought of the weeks he had spent studying after his failure. Perseverance. Yes, he had not given up. He felt a quiet strength in that recognition. And the simple goodness of his being. He felt the rise and fall of his own chest. He felt the weariness in his muscles from a day of good work. He was alive. He was trying. A soft, gentle feeling of gratitude, unattached to any outcome, arose in his heart. A quiet smile touched his lips in the darkness. He was not just a potter, successful or failed. He was a living, breathing being, full of inherent goodness. And that was enough. As you lie here now, letting go of the day, you can offer yourself this same gentle, appreciative joy. For so long, you may have been scanning your life for what is lacking, for where you fall short. Tonight, you can gently shift your gaze. You can learn to see yourself with the eyes of mudita. Let your mind drift back over the day. That has just passed. And with the same gentleness Kian learned, let us look for the small treasures. First, a small success. It does not need to be a grand achievement. Perhaps you finished a difficult task at work. Perhaps you had a pleasant conversation with someone. Perhaps you cooked a nourishing meal. Perhaps you simply got out of bed this morning when it felt hard to do so. Find one small thing, and instead of dismissing it, hold it in your awareness for a moment. Let yourself feel the quiet satisfaction. You can say to yourself, I am grateful for this. This went well. Allow the good feeling to land, to soak into your being like gentle rain. Next, bring to mind one of your own good qualities that showed itself today. We are often so blind to our own virtues. Look gently. Did you show patience in traffic? Did you have a moment of creativity? Did you listen kindly to a friend? Were you generous, resilient, courageous? Name the quality. Today, I saw my own strength. Today, I saw my own kindness. Feel a quiet appreciation for this beautiful aspect of who you are. It is not arrogant to see your own goodness. It is a necessary part of being a whole and healthy person. You are watering the flowers in your own garden. And finally, let go of all doing and achieving. Rest in the simple appreciation of your own being. Feel your body breathing. This body, which has carried you through your entire life. It may have aches and pains. It may not be perfect, but it is a miracle. It is breathing, healing, feeling, all on its own. Feel your heart. This heart, which has the capacity for love, for compassion, for joy. It has been broken, perhaps, but it continues to beat. It continues to feel. Appreciate the simple, profound goodness of your own existence. right here, right now. You do not have to earn this appreciation. It is your birthright. This is the quiet smile of mudita. It is a deep, inner contentment that does not depend on external praise or validation. It is the joy of being your own ally, your own cheerleader, your own gentle friend. It is a warmth that can hold you through the night. Let this quiet, appreciative joy be the final thought that accompanies you into sleep. Let it soothe your mind and comfort your heart. You are a being of profound and inherent goodness. Rest in that truth. Rest in that joy. And allow this gentle, quiet smile to carry you into a deep, peaceful, and truly contented sleep. Of course, I will expand on Kian's practice of mudita, exploring its challenges and deeper benefits to meet the required word count. A quiet smile touched his lips in the darkness. He was not just a potter, successful or failed. He was a living, breathing being, full of inherent goodness. And that was enough. Over the following weeks, Kian continued this nightly practice. Some nights it came easily. He would recall a kind word he had shared, or the simple pleasure of watching the sunset, and the warmth of mudita would flow through him, a gentle and comforting current. But other nights it was more difficult. On days when he felt clumsy, when the clay would not center, when his mind was full of restless thoughts, the practice felt like a lie. How could he find a success in a day that felt like a series of failures? How could he see his own goodness when all he could feel was his own inadequacy? One such evening, feeling frustrated, he sought out Jin. He found the old monk sitting on the veranda, mending a tear in his robe with small, precise stitches. The moonlight cast a silver glow on his focused work. "Master," Kian began, his voice tight with his own frustration. "I am struggling with the practice of joy. On good days, I can find it, but on bad days, it feels forced. It feels like I am trying to convince myself of something that is not true. Today, I was impatient with myself. I spoke a sharp word to a merchant, and I broke a bowl through carelessness. Where is the goodness in that? To search for it feels dishonest." Jin paused his sewing. He looked up at Kian, his eyes reflecting the soft moonlight. He did not offer an immediate answer, but instead held up the robe he was mending. "When I look at this robe, Kian, what do you think I see?" he asked. "I see an old, worn robe," Kian answered. "And a tear that you are fixing?" "Yes," Jin said. "I see the tear. I do not ignore it. I see the frayed edges, the places where the fabric is thin. I see the stains from years of work and spilled tea. I do not pretend the robe is perfect. But I also see the strong thread I am using to mend it. I see the thousands of other stitches still holding strong after all these years. I feel the softness of the fabric that has kept me warm on so many cold nights. I remember the person who wove this cloth. To see the goodness does not mean you must be blind to the flaws. It means you must choose to see the whole picture." He set the robe aside. "Your day was like this robe. It had a tear, the broken bowl. It had a stain, the sharp word. You must not ignore these things. You must acknowledge them, perhaps with a gentle touch of compassion for the part of you that was struggling. But if you only focus on the tear and the stain, you are not seeing the whole truth of the day. You are seeing only a fraction of it." "So, what of the rest of the cloth?" Jin prompted. "Did you breathe today? Did your heart beat? Did you wake up this morning with the intention to live a good day?
even if it did not turn out as you planned. That intention itself is a profound form of goodness. Did you feel the sun on your skin? Did you taste your food? These are moments of grace. To practice mudita on a difficult day is not to lie to yourself. It is to balance the scales. It is to honor the truth that even in a day with many struggles, there are also moments of grace, moments of effort, and the unwavering goodness of your own fundamental being. Jin's words were like a lamp being lit in a dark room. Kian had been practicing mudita with an all-or-nothing mind. He believed that if the day was bad, then everything in it must be bad. He was still caught in the habit of harsh, absolute judgment. The quiet smile of mudita is not a wide, foolish grin that denies reality, Jin continued. It is a subtle, wise smile that acknowledges the whole of reality. It is the smile that can see the tear in the robe and at the same time appreciate the strength of the remaining cloth. On your most difficult days, the practice may be very simple. Perhaps the only success you can acknowledge is that you endured the day. That is a monumental success. Perhaps the only good quality you can find is the resilience that is allowing you to lie here now, still breathing, still willing to try again tomorrow. That is a profound virtue. And the goodness of your being? It is never absent. It is the sky. The difficult day was just a series of storm clouds. The sky was always there, untouched. Kian bowed his head, a wave of understanding washing over him. He had been looking for perfect, shining gems of goodness on his bad days. Jin was teaching him to see the beauty in the ordinary, weathered stones. As you lie here, perhaps you are reflecting on a day that was difficult, a day that felt more like a torn robe than a perfect piece of silk. This is where the practice of mudita reveals its true power. It is not a practice of spiritual bypassing, of pretending everything is fine when it is not. It is a practice of radical wholeness. Acknowledge the struggles of your day. See the tear, see the stain. Offer a touch of compassion to the part of you that is weary from it all. And then, gently, courageously, widen your view. Look for the strong threads that held things together. Did you make it through a challenging meeting? Acknowledge the strength that took. Did you feel a moment of frustration but chose not to act on it? Acknowledge the wisdom in that restraint. Did you feel overwhelmed but still managed to make yourself a cup of tea? Acknowledge that small, profound act of self-care. These are not small things. They are the evidence of your own resilient, beautiful, and fundamentally good heart at work. You are learning to see yourself not as a finished product to be judged, but as a continuous process to be appreciated. You are appreciating the effort, not just the outcome. Let this gentle, appreciative joy be a soft light in the darkness. It does not deny the shadows, but it reminds you that the light is also, always, present. You contain multitudes. You are a being of infinite complexity, capable of both messing up and showing up with incredible grace. Mudita is the practice of honoring that full, complex, and beautiful truth. It is the most honest form of self-love. Rest in this honesty. Rest in this gentle, all-encompassing appreciation for the whole of who you are. Let it be the peace that settles over you, the quiet smile that leads you into a deep and truly restorative sleep. Part 7. The Unshakable Heart. The Peace of Equanimity. Let the gentle darkness be a soft blanket, wrapping you in its profound and peaceful silence. With every breath, feel yourself letting go, drifting further from the cares of the day. We have journeyed deep into the landscape of the heart, learning to plant the warm flowers of metta, to tend our wounds with the gentle hands of karuna, and to celebrate our own goodness with the quiet smile of mudita. These are the beautiful expressions of a heart that is opening to itself. But this open heart, in all its newfound sensitivity, can still be tossed about by the winds of the world. Praise can make it soar, and blame can make it plummet. Success can fill it with a giddy joy, and failure can plunge it into a familiar despair. How do we find a peace that is not dependent on circumstances? How do we cultivate a heart that is not just open, but also unshakable? This is the path to upekkha, or equanimity. It is the crown jewel of the four divine abodes, the one that holds and balances all the others. Upekkha is not indifference or apathy. It is not a cold, distant withdrawal from life. It is the opposite. It is a vast, spacious, and deeply engaged balance of mind. It is the calm, unwavering wisdom that sees the bigger picture. It is the deep, silent ocean that remains undisturbed by the waves on its surface. It is the great mountain that is not moved by the changing weather, whether it be a gentle spring sun or a fierce winter storm. Equanimity is the firm ground upon which we can stand, allowing us to offer kindness, compassion, and joy to ourselves and others, no matter what winds may be blowing. The fame of Kian's beautiful celadon bowls had spread beyond his small village. Word traveled along the merchant roads to the capital, and one day a message arrived that sent a tremor of both excitement and terror through him. A renowned and wealthy tea merchant, a man known for his impeccable and demanding taste, was traveling to the village specifically to see Kian's work. If he was pleased, he might place an order that would secure Kian's reputation and livelihood for years to come. In the days leading up to the merchant's arrival, Kian found himself on a violent inner roller coaster. When his neighbors offered him words of praise and admiration, a giddy warmth would fill his chest. He would feel a surge of pride, a feeling of being seen and valued. He clung to this feeling, replaying their words in his mind. But this pleasant peak was always followed by a steep drop. He would hear a whisper of jealousy from another potter, or his own inner critic would murmur, "They will be disappointed. Your work is not as good as they think." A cold knot of fear would then form in his stomach. He was buffeted between these two extremes, his peace completely at the mercy of the opinions of others, both real and imagined. He was not the calm sky watching the clouds. He was a small kite being whipped about in a gale. Distraught and exhausted by this inner turmoil, he went to find Jin. The old monk was sitting at the base of a great ancient pine tree that stood on a hill overlooking the monastery. Its roots were thick and gnarled, gripping the earth like a powerful hand. Its branches were wide and patient, having weathered 1,000 storms. "Master," Kian said, his voice strained, "my heart has no peace. It is like a hungry ghost, craving praise and terrified of blame. The good words make me happy for a moment, but then the fear of losing that approval is a torment. The bad words feel like stones thrown at me. I have learned to be kind to myself, but my well-being still feels like it is in the hands of others." Jin looked from Kian to the great tree, and then back again. "You have learned to care for the leaves and branches of your heart," he said, his voice calm and steady. "But you have not yet found your root. You have not yet found the part of you that is like this great tree, or like the mountain it grows upon, the part that is not swayed by the wind or the rain. This is the practice of upekkha, equanimity," Jin continued.
It is the art of finding your center in the midst of life's 8 worldly winds: pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disrepute. These 8 winds are always blowing. You cannot stop them. To build your house of peace on any one of them is to build on shifting sands. But how can I not be happy when I am praised? Kian asked. And how can I not be hurt when I am blamed? Is that not human? It is human to feel these things, Jin affirmed. Equanimity is not the absence of feeling. It is the absence of being knocked over by your feelings. The mountain feels the warmth of the sun. It feels the cold of the snow. But it does not change its nature. It does not become bigger in the sun or smaller in the snow. It remains the mountain. You feel the pleasure of praise. You feel the sting of blame. The practice is to remain the vast, steady awareness that is feeling these things, without becoming them. Jin picked up a small, smooth stone. When you receive praise, your mind clings to it. I like this. I want more of this. When you receive blame, your mind pushes it away. I don't like this. I want it to stop. Your peace is lost in this constant pulling and pushing. Equanimity is the ability to let both the pleasant and the unpleasant feelings arise, to be with them without clinging and without pushing away. It is a radical act of allowing. This sounds very difficult, Kian said, his shoulders slumping. The practice is simple, though not always easy, Jin replied. It begins with seeing these feelings for what they are, temporary visitors. They are weather patterns passing through you. They are not you. Come, let us practice. He led Kian back to his workshop. The 12 celadon bowls were lined up on a shelf, glowing in the afternoon light. Jin took one down and handed it to Kian. Hold this bowl, he said, and bring to mind the words of praise you have received for it. Feel the happiness, the pride, the warmth that arises in your body. Where do you feel it? In your chest, your face? Kian closed his eyes and did as he was told. He felt the pleasant warmth spread through him. I feel it in my chest, he said. Good, said Jin. Now just be with that feeling. Do not cling to it. Do not try to hold on to it. Simply acknowledge it. Ah, a pleasant feeling is here. Watch it like a cloud. Notice its shape, its texture. And notice that it is, by its very nature, changing. It will not last forever. Simply let it be, without grasping. Kian sat with the feeling, and he saw that Jin was right. As he observed it, the initial intense rush began to soften into a quiet warmth, and then it began to fade. It was just a feeling, an event. Now, Jin said, his voice still gentle, put that feeling down, and imagine the merchant arrives tomorrow. He picks up this very bowl and he scoffs. He says, "This is amateur work. The glaze is uneven, the shape is clumsy." Bring this image to mind and feel the reaction in your body, the sting of shame, the heat of anger or fear. Where do you feel that? Kian winced as he imagined the scene. A cold, tight knot formed in his stomach. I feel it in my stomach and in my throat, he said. Be with that feeling now, Jin instructed. Do not fight it, do not push it away, simply acknowledge its presence. Ah, an unpleasant feeling is here. Be curious about it. What is its texture? Is it hot or cold, sharp or dull. Watch it, just as you watched the pleasant feeling. It is also just a visitor. It is also just weather. It will also pass. Kian stayed with the painful knot in his stomach. He breathed into it, and as he watched it with this detached, compassionate curiosity, he felt its power lessen. It was still there, but it no longer consumed him. He was the spacious room, and it was just a piece of furniture. This is the heart of the practice, Jin said. You train your mind to find its home not in the pleasant feeling or the unpleasant feeling, but in the calm, steady awareness that can hold both. Your true refuge is in the seeing, not in what is seen. You are the mountain. The praise is a sunny day. The blame is a thunderstorm. You can learn to be with both without losing your ground. The next day, the merchant arrived. He was an imposing man, dressed in fine silks. Kian's heart began to pound. He took a deep breath, trying to remember Jin's words. He tried to find the mountain within himself. The merchant picked up the bowls one by one, examining them in silence. The silence was agonizing. Kian felt the knot of fear in his stomach. He acknowledged,
Bit.
An unpleasant feeling is here. He breathed. He did not fight it. Finally, the merchant spoke. These 6, he said, pointing to one group, are exquisite. The glaze is masterful. I will buy them for a very high price. A wave of relief and joy washed over Kian. He felt the warmth in his chest. He acknowledged it. A pleasant feeling is here. He breathed. He did not cling to it. Then the merchant pointed to the other 6. These, however, are inferior. There is a slight cloudiness to the glaze here, a thickness to the rim there. They are not worthy of my collection. The sting of criticism, the cold knot in his stomach. Kian felt it rise. He acknowledged it. An unpleasant feeling is here. He breathed. He met it with the vast, steady space of his awareness. In the past, this mixed verdict would have torn him apart. He would have obsessed over the criticism, dismissing the praise. Now, something different happened. He felt both the pleasure and the pain, but he was not lost in them. He was the container for them. He stood, calm and centered, and simply bowed to the merchant. Thank you for your discerning eye, Kian said, his voice even and clear. I am grateful for your praise, and I will learn from your criticism. The merchant looked at him, surprised by his composure. He saw not a desperate artisan, but a man of quiet dignity. Later, after the merchant had gone, Jin found Kian in his workshop, calmly packing the 6 bowls that had been sold. The winds blew strongly today, Jin said. Yes, master, Kian replied, a quiet smile on his face. But for the first time, I did not feel like a kite. I felt like the mountain. As you lie here now, at the end of your day, you can find this mountain within yourself. Your day too was filled with the 8 worldly winds, moments of pleasure, moments of pain, moments of gain, moments of loss. Your mind may still be clinging to the pleasant and resisting the unpleasant. Let that all go now. Come home to the unshakable ground of your own being. Feel the steady support of the bed beneath you. This is your ground. Feel the constant, gentle rhythm of your breath. This is your anchor. This steady, quiet presence within you is your true nature. It was here when you felt happy today. It was here when you felt anxious. It was here when you felt tired. It has never left. Rest in this deep, unwavering center. Let the waves of memory, of praise and blame, of success and failure
wash over you. They are just waves on the surface. They cannot touch the deep, silent peace of the ocean's depths. You are that depth. You are that peace. Let this profound stillness be your final refuge, the safe and silent harbor that holds you as you drift into a deep, restorative, and truly unshakable sleep. Of course, I will expand on the conversation between Kian and Jin, exploring the deeper applications and subtleties of equanimity to meet the word count.
"Yes, Master," Kian replied, a quiet smile on his face. But for the first time, I did not feel like a kite. I felt like the mountain. Jin watched him for a moment, a deep sense of warmth in his eyes. "This is a very important step, Kian. To find this center in the midst of the storm is the beginning of true freedom. But the practice of upekkha does not end here. It deepens." Kian paused his packing and turned his full attention to his master. "How so?" "Today you found equanimity with the praise and blame of another," Jin said. "This is a great challenge. But there is an even more subtle challenge. To find equanimity with the praise and blame that comes from within. The merchant has gone, but your own inner critic and inner praiser remain. They are the winds that blow even in the quietest room." Kian felt the truth of this immediately. Even now, a part of his mind was replaying the merchant's praise, creating a subtle feeling of pride. Another part was already dissecting the merchant's criticism, planning how to fix the inferior bowls, tinged with a familiar sense of not quite good enough. He was still subtly leaning toward the pleasant and away from the unpleasant, even in his own thoughts. "The inner critic," Jin continued, "is a harsh winter wind. You have learned to meet it with the warmth of compassion. This is good. But the inner praiser can be a different kind of wind. A warm, seductive summer breeze that can seem harmless. It whispers, 'You are good. You are a success. You are better than the others.' We cling to this voice. We identify with it. And in doing so, we set ourselves up for a fall. We become attached to a high, and when the inevitable low comes, our suffering is even greater. We become proud, and pride is a very fragile foundation on which to build our peace." "So I should not even feel good about my own success?" Kian asked, confused. "Is that not the practice of mudita, to appreciate our own goodness?" "Ah, a very wise question," Jin said, smiling. "This is where the balance becomes so important. Mudita is the practice of appreciating the good without clinging to it. Upekkha is the spaciousness that allows that appreciation to happen without it solidifying into pride or ego. Think of it this way. Mudita is like noticing a beautiful flower in your garden. You can appreciate its color, its fragrance, its delicate form. It brings you joy. Upekkha is the wisdom that knows this flower will not last forever. It will bloom, and it will fade. You can love the flower fully without needing it to be permanent. You do not need the flower to bloom for you to feel that you are a worthy gardener." "So, with my own success," Jin explained, "I can appreciate the effort, the skill, the beautiful result. I can feel a quiet, warm joy. That is mudita. But I do not build my identity on it. I do not create a story that I am a great potter. I simply see it as a beautiful flower that has bloomed in this moment. And I know that in another moment, a weed of failure may grow. I can be with both. The joy of success does not inflate me, and the pain of failure does not deflate me. My sense of well-being is not tied to the changing fortunes of the garden. It is rooted in the ground of my own being.
This was a revelation for Kian. He saw how his happiness had always been conditional. It depended on producing good pots, on receiving praise, on feeling successful. Jin was pointing to a peace that was unconditional, a peace that was present whether the kiln yielded treasures or trash. The ultimate practice of upekkha, Jin said, his voice becoming very soft, is to find this balance with life and death itself. To see that our own lives are like these bowls. They are formed from the clay of conditions. They are fired in the kiln of experience. They have moments of beauty and moments of being cracked. And one day, they will all return to dust. Equanimity is the peace that comes from accepting this great, flowing, uncontrollable dance of existence. It is the ability to love our lives fully, to engage with them completely, without desperately clinging to them. It is the final letting go. Kian looked around his workshop, at the clay, the wheel, the finished and broken pots. He saw his whole life reflected there, the constant cycle of becoming and dissolving, the joy, the pain, the effort, the surrender. For a moment, he felt a flicker of fear at the thought of this impermanence. But then, held in the calm presence of his master, another feeling arose, a profound sense of peace. If nothing was permanent, then he didn't have to hold on so tightly. He could simply participate in the dance with an open heart, meeting each step, the graceful and the clumsy, with the same steady, loving awareness. As you lie here, on the edge of sleep, you can feel into this deep, unconditional peace. The events of your day, the praise and blame, the gain and loss, are the waves on the surface of your life. Your practice now is to sink beneath the waves, into the vast, silent, and unmoving depths of your own being. This deep awareness within you is your true home. It is the mountain. It is the root of the great tree. It is the unshakable ground. It is not disturbed by the successes of your day, nor is it diminished by the failures. It simply is. It is the calm, silent witness to the entire, beautiful, messy, and impermanent dance of your life. Rest in this awareness. Let it hold all the experiences of your day in its vast, accepting embrace. The pleasant feelings, the unpleasant feelings, the moments you are proud of, the moments you regret, all are welcome here. None of them define you. None of them can touch the profound peace of your true nature. This is the ultimate letting go. It is the release of the need for life to be any different than it is. It is the release of the need for you to be any different than you are. In this great acceptance, there is a great peace. Let this peace be the final sensation of your day. Let it cradle you, hold you, and carry you into the deepest, most restorative sleep you have ever known. Part 8. The Buddha in the Mirror, Recognizing Our True Nature. Breathe in the deep, silent peace of the night. Breathe out, and let your body feel held and supported by the stillness all around you. You have found the unshakable mountain of equanimity within, a place of profound balance that can hold both the joys and sorrows of your life. You have learned to be a compassionate friend to yourself, to appreciate your own goodness, and to meet the changing winds of the world with a calm and steady heart. This is a place of great safety and peace. And yet, even from the peak of this serene mountain, we can look out
and still feel that there is a final distance to travel. We may feel that we are a flawed, ordinary person who has learned some very skillful ways to cope. We may feel that we are a rough stone that is being patiently polished, and that the goal, enlightenment or true peace, is still somewhere in the future, a final, gleaming jewel that we must strive to become. This subtle, persistent feeling of being separate from our goal is the last and most profound illusion to dissolve. The journey of self-love finds its ultimate fulfillment not in becoming better, but in recognizing the perfection that was already, always here. This is the great teaching of Buddha nature, the luminous, wise, and compassionate essence that is the very ground of our being. It is not something we build or achieve. It is something we awaken to. It is like realizing you have been a king or a queen your entire life, living in the guise of a beggar. The practice is not to earn a crown, but simply to remove the rags of illusion and recognize the royalty that has always been your true identity. The seasons turned, and a deep, quiet winter settled over the village. Kian's life had found a rhythm of profound peace. His days at the wheel were no longer a struggle, but a moving meditation. His heart was balanced. His mind was calm. He was kind to himself in his failures and appreciative of his successes, all without clinging. He was, by all measures, a happy and contented man. And yet, a subtle question began to form in the quietest moments of his day, like a single, persistent note from a distant flute. He felt that all his practices, mindfulness, compassion, joy, equanimity, were wonderful tools. He was becoming a very skillful user of these tools, but he still felt like a user, separate from the tools themselves. He felt like Kian, an imperfect but improving potter, who was applying these techniques to his own flawed nature. The sense of a fundamental problem, a core inadequacy that needed these practices as a remedy, had not entirely vanished. It was as if he were spending his life meticulously cleaning a house, but still believed the house itself was fundamentally dirty. One cold, clear afternoon, he brought Jin a cup of hot tea. The old monk was sitting on the veranda, looking out at the stark, beautiful garden. The trees were bare, their branches like intricate calligraphy against the pale winter sky. "Master," Kian began, after they had sat in silence for a while, "I am so grateful for all you have taught me. My life is transformed. But I feel there is one last door I cannot open. I feel that I am Kian, a man full of habits and history, and I am using these wonderful practices to polish myself. But I am still just a stone. I am working very hard to become a jewel, but the work feels endless. Will I ever be finished with the polishing?" Jin looked at Kian, his eyes full of a deep, radiant warmth that seemed to defy the winter chill. A slow smile spread across his face. "Ah, Kian," he said, "you have arrived at the final gate, the gate where you must set down all your tools, even the most precious ones. The greatest mistake, the one that causes the most subtle and enduring suffering, is the belief that you are a stone that needs to become a jewel. The final truth is this: you were never the stone. You have always been the jewel. You have just been covered in a little bit of mud." Kian stared at his master, not quite understanding. "But all my flaws, my anger, my fear, my clumsiness, Is that not the stone?" "No," Jin said gently. "That is the mud. It is not who you are. It is just something that has temporarily obscured your true nature. You have been working so hard to change the nature of the stone, when all that was ever required was to gently wash away the mud." Jin stood and beckoned for Qian to follow him. He led him not to the meditation hall, but to his own small, sparse room. The only furniture was a sleeping mat, a low table, and a small wooden chest. From the chest, Jin took out a small, round object wrapped in a piece of old silk. He unwrapped it carefully. It was a bronze mirror, polished to such a high sheen that it looked like a pool of liquid light. He held the mirror up to Qian. "What do you see?" Qian looked at his reflection. He saw his own familiar face, the lines around his eyes from years of squinting at his work, a smudge of clay on his cheek, the weariness of the day in his expression. "I see myself," he said. "Qian, the potter." "You see the story," Jin corrected him softly. "You see the character you have been playing. Now, watch." Jin took a handful of dust and ash from a small bowl by the hearth and smeared it across the mirror's surface. The bright reflection vanished, replaced by a dull, gray, lifeless smudge. "Now where is Qian the potter?" Jin asked. "He is gone," Qian replied. "He is hidden by the dust." "Has the mirror broken?" Jin asked. "Has its fundamental nature changed? Has its ability to reflect been destroyed?"
"No," Qian said, beginning to understand. "The mirror is still there, underneath. Its nature is unchanged. It is just obscured." With a soft cloth, Jin began to gently wipe the dust from the mirror's surface. With each swipe, a patch of clear, bright reflection reappeared. Soon the mirror was pristine again, Qian's face looking back at him, clear and bright. "Did I create your reflection, Qian?" Jin asked, his eyes piercing and kind. "Did I have to add anything to the mirror to make it work? Or did I simply remove what was covering it?" "You only removed the dust," Qian whispered, his heart beginning to beat faster with a startling realization. "Your mind, in its true nature, is like this mirror," Jin said, his voice filling the small, quiet room. "It is inherently clear, bright and luminous. It has the perfect capacity to reflect the world just as it is. This is your Buddha nature. It is not something you must attain or build. It is your very essence. It has been with you since before you were born. The dust," he continued, "is the confusion of the mind, the greed, the anger, the ignorance, the stories we tell ourselves. I am not good enough. I am a failure. I am unlovable. These stories are the dust. They are not you. They are just temporary conditions that obscure the mirror. All the practices I have taught you, mindfulness, compassion, equanimity, they are not tools to polish a stone. They are the soft cloth. Their only purpose is to gently wipe away the dust so that you can see the perfect mirror that has been here all along." A profound silence filled Qian. It was as if the world had stopped turning. Every teaching, every practice, every struggle and insight from the past years suddenly clicked into place, forming a new, luminous picture. He had been trying to become a Buddha. He had been striving to be like Jin. He had been trying to escape the flawed potter, Qian. And now he saw, with a clarity that brought tears to his eyes, that the flawed potter was just a story, a speck of dust on the mirror. The mirror itself, his own true nature, was already perfect, already whole, already the Buddha. There was nowhere to go, nothing to achieve. The only journey was to recognize what was already here. He looked down at his own hands, no longer seeing them as clumsy or skillful, but as a perfect expression of this luminous nature. He looked out the window at the bare winter trees and saw them not as empty or waiting for spring, but as a perfect expression of their own Buddha nature in that very moment. The separation he had always felt between himself and the world, between himself and his own ideal, dissolved. It was all one seamless, shining reality. As you lie here now, in the deep quiet of your room, you can perform this same beautiful inquiry. You can look into the mirror of your own being. For your whole life, you may have been looking at your reflection and seeing only the dust. You have seen the story of the anxious person, the person who is not enough, the person with a difficult past. You have identified with this dust. You have believed that this is who you are, and you have spent so much energy trying to fix or polish this dusty surface. Tonight, you can rest in a different understanding. All these stories, all these feelings of inadequacy, all these self-judgments, they are not you. They are simply the dust of conditioning, the passing clouds of thought and feeling. They are not your true nature. Beneath all of that, your true nature is like a perfect, shining mirror. It is inherently peaceful, whole, and complete. It is not damaged by the dust. It is not stained by the stories. Its capacity to shine is never lost. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to achieve a future state of perfection. You only need to gently, with each breath, wipe away the dust that obscures the perfection that is already here. Let your breath be the soft cloth tonight. With each inhale, breathe in a sense of gentle acceptance. With each exhale, let go of one of the stories you tell yourself. Let go of the belief that you are broken. Let go of the belief that you need to be fixed. Let go of the striving. You are not a flawed being striving for peace. You are peace itself, temporarily covered by the dust of restless thought. You are not a seeker looking for love. You are love itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature. The light you have been searching for in the world is the very light you are looking with. Rest in this profound recognition. There is nothing to do. There is nowhere to go. You can simply be. Be the perfect, shining mirror that you are. Let this deep, unconditional acceptance of your own true nature be the final, gentle truth that dissolves all tension, all worry, all striving. You are already home. You have always been home. Rest now in the luminous, peaceful perfection of your own being. Of course, I would expand on Kian's realization, exploring its practical effects on his life and deepening the teaching to meet the word count. The separation he had always felt between himself and the world, between himself and his own ideal, dissolved. It was all one seamless, shining reality. He looked up at Jin, his face wet with tears, but his eyes were shining with a light that mirrored the bronze in the master's hand. He did not need to speak. Jin simply nodded, a smile of profound, shared understanding on his face. "The work is not over," Jin said, his voice gentle but clear. "But the nature of the work has changed. Before, you were a laborer, trying to build a palace out of rubble. Now, you are the king, simply tidying up his own home. The effort is lighter. The work is infused with joy, not with desperation." Kian felt the truth of this. The idea of practice no longer felt like a chore, a remedy for his brokenness.
It felt like a celebration, an act of love for the perfection he now knew himself to be. Wiping the dust from the mirror was not a burden. It was a joyful act of allowing his own light to shine more clearly. He walked back to his workshop in a state of quiet awe. The world looked the same, yet it was completely different. The winter light on the dusty floor, the texture of the rough wooden bench, the smell of cold clay. Everything seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. It was as if he had been seeing the world in black and white his entire life, and someone had just turned on the color. He sat at his wheel, but he did not immediately begin to work. He simply sat, feeling the stillness of the room, feeling the quiet, radiant presence of his own being. The usual hum of inner commentary, the planning, the worrying, the subtle self-assessment, was gone. In its place was a vast, peaceful silence. He was not Keon about to make a pot. He was simply awareness, sitting in a workshop. When he finally placed a ball of clay on the wheel, his touch was different. It was infused with a reverence he had never felt before. He was not just touching clay. He was this luminous awareness, touching this luminous earth. The separation was gone. His hands did not feel like his own, but like extensions of the universe itself, shaping a part of itself into a new form. There was no goal, no desire for a perfect outcome. There was only the joyful, miraculous dance of creation. The bowls he made that afternoon were unlike any he had ever made before. They were not technically perfect. In fact, he allowed for imperfections, a slight asymmetry, the mark of a finger, with a newfound sense of loving acceptance. But they possessed a quality of aliveness, a vibrant, silent presence that his other, more technically proficient bowls had lacked. They seemed to hold the silence of the winter afternoon within their simple forms. They were not just bowls. They were expressions of the mirror's clear reflection. In the days that followed, Keon began to see the dust of his old habits with a new clarity and a profound lack of judgment. The voice of the inner critic would still occasionally arise, like a ghost from a forgotten time. A thought would appear. That curve is not quite right. But instead of engaging with it, or even needing to apply a compassionate technique to soothe it, he saw it for what it was, just a speck of dust. It had no power over him because he no longer identified with it. He could see it, acknowledge it with a quiet inner smile, and let it float away, leaving the mirror untouched. He noticed the dust of craving, the subtle desire for praise when a villager admired his new work. He saw it, felt the slight pull of it, and let it go. The praise was pleasant, like a warm breeze, but he knew he was the mountain, not the breeze. He noticed the dust of aversion, the flicker of annoyance when an apprentice made a clumsy mistake. He saw the feeling arise, a tightening in his chest, and he simply let it be, without acting on it. He was the spacious sky, and the annoyance was just a small, passing cloud. His relationship with himself had been utterly transformed. He no longer needed to practice self-love as a corrective measure. He simply was love. He was the inherent goodness he had been trying to appreciate with mudita. He was the boundless compassion he had been trying to cultivate with karuna. These were not qualities he needed to add to himself. They were the very nature of the mirror. The practice was simply to remember this, moment by moment. As you lie here, resting in the quiet of your own being, you can allow this profound truth to permeate your body and mind. You are not a project to be completed. You are not a problem to be solved. You are a miracle to be discovered. Think of the energy you have spent your entire life trying to be better. The endless self-improvement projects, the diets, the resolutions, the subtle, constant feeling that if you could just fix this one more thing about yourself, then you would finally be worthy of peace and happiness. All of this effort, however well-intentioned, is based on the mistaken identity of believing you are the dust. It is the belief that you are fundamentally flawed. Tonight, you can set down this heavy burden. You can rest in the truth of who you really are. Your Buddha nature, this shining mirror of awareness, has never been flawed, not for a single moment. It was perfect when you were a baby. It was perfect during your most awkward teenage years. It was perfect on your best days and on your worst days. It is perfect right now as you lie here, breathing. The only thing that has ever changed is the amount of dust covering the mirror. The only thing that has ever caused you to suffer is your belief that you were the dust. Let this realization be a profound act of self-love. It is the ultimate acceptance. You are already whole. You are already worthy. You are already everything you have been searching for. Feel this truth in your body. Let it be a wave of relaxation that flows from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Let it release the deep, habitual tension of striving. Let it soothe the ancient ache of inadequacy. There is nothing you need to do to deserve this peace. It is your essence. This does not mean you will never feel pain or sadness again. It does not mean the dust will never arise. But like Kian, your relationship with the dust will change. You will see it for what it is, impersonal, temporary, and ultimately not you. You can meet it with a spacious, loving awareness, knowing that it cannot stain the mirror. This is the true meaning of coming home to yourself. It is not about arriving at a perfect destination in the future. It is about recognizing the perfect home that has always been right here, beneath the shifting sands of your thoughts and feelings. Rest in this home now. Rest in the luminous, silent, and infinitely loving truth of your own being. Let this be the deepest peace, the final lullaby that carries you into a sleep of profound and utter release. Part 9. Setting Down the Burden. The Gentle Art of Self-Forgiveness. Let the quiet of the night deepen around you, a gentle and healing presence. Feel the weight of your body as a comforting anchor, holding you in this moment of profound rest. We have journeyed to the very heart of our being, discovering the perfect, shining mirror of our own Buddha nature. We have realized that we are not a flawed stone in need of polishing, but a perfect jewel that has always been here, just waiting to be seen. This recognition is the source of the deepest peace, a homecoming to the truth of who we are. And yet, even after we have come home, we may find that we have carried some heavy luggage with us from our long journey. In the quiet corners of our newly recognized palace, there may be old, dusty trunks filled with the regrets and mistakes of the past. We may have recognized our inherent perfection, but the memory of the times we acted from a place of confusion, from a place of pain, can still linger. We remember the harsh words we spoke, the kindness we failed to offer, the times we hurt others or ourselves. These memories can feel like heavy stones that we carry in our hearts, weighing us down and preventing us from fully inhabiting the spacious freedom of our true nature. The final act of clearing out our inner home, of truly making it a place of light and peace, is the gentle and courageous art of self-forgiveness. It is the act of setting down the heavy burden of the past, not by condoning our mistakes, but by understanding them with a wise and compassionate heart. The snows of winter began to melt, and the first signs of spring appeared in the valley. The air grew softer, and the bare branches of the trees began to show the faintest blush of green. Kian was living in a state of quiet, luminous grace. The recognition of his own true nature had infused his life and his work with a sense of ease and joy he had never imagined possible. He no longer struggled. He simply lived, meeting each moment from the open, peaceful space of his own being. One afternoon, an old man from the village came to his workshop. He was a man Kian had known his whole life, a gruff and often unkind carpenter named Tenzin. Years ago, when Kian was just a young, struggling apprentice, Tenzin had been one of his harshest critics. He had openly mocked Kian's early, clumsy work, and had once told him he had no talent and should find another trade. The words had stung deeply at the time, becoming a significant part of the painful story of the failed potter that Kian had carried for so long. Now, Tenzin stood before him, his own face etched with the deep lines of a hard life and a recent sorrow. His wife had passed away a few weeks prior. He held a small, broken teacup in his trembling hands. "This was her favorite," Tenzin said, his voice rough with unshed tears. "I dropped it this morning. Can you fix it?" Kian looked at the man and at the broken cup. He felt no trace of the old resentment, no desire for vindication. He saw only a fellow human being in pain. The mirror of his heart simply reflected the sorrow that was before him. "I cannot make it as it was," Kian said gently, "but I can mend it. I will join the pieces with lacquer and gold dust. It is a technique called kintsugi. The cracks will become part of its beauty, a testament to its history." Tenzin simply nodded, his eyes full of gratitude, and left the cup with Kian. Kian worked on the cup with a tender, focused care. As he carefully pieced the fragments together, he found his mind drifting back to the past. He remembered the young boy he had been, so hungry for approval, so wounded by Tenzin's cruel words. He felt a wave of deep compassion for that younger version of himself. But then, other memories arose. He remembered his own harshness. He remembered his own impatience with clumsy apprentices. He remembered a time he had spoken a sharp, angry word to his own aging mother, out of frustration. He remembered the jealousy he had felt toward other potters, the silent, bitter wishes for their failure. He saw with a painful clarity that the same confusion and pain that had fueled Tenzin's cruelty had also lived in him. He too had been a source of suffering for others. The realization did not come with the old, familiar sting of self-hatred. He knew he was not that dust. But the memories themselves were heavy. They felt like dark stains on the otherwise clear landscape of his mind. He felt a deep, aching sorrow for the harm his own confusion had caused. When Jin came to visit him later, he found Kian sitting quietly, the beautifully mended cup on the table before him. The golden lines of the repair glowed in the fading light. "Your heart is heavy, Kian," Jin said, not as a question, but as a simple observation. "Yes, Master," Qian replied. "I've been remembering the past, not just the ways I was hurt, but the ways I have hurt others. I know that this is the dust, the confusion. I know it is not my true nature, and yet the memory of it brings a great sadness. It feels unforgivable." Jin sat down opposite him and picked up the mended cup, turning it gently in his hands. "This cup is a beautiful teacher," he said. "Before, it was broken. It was useless. Now, it is whole again. It is not just whole. It is more beautiful and more precious than it was before. Its wounds have been transformed into its greatest beauty. This is the power of forgiveness." "But how do I forgive myself?" Qian asked, his voice low. "To simply say, 'I forgive myself,' feels empty. The harm was real." "True forgiveness is not a simple phrase," Jin explained. "It is a deep process of understanding, compassion, and release. It has 3 parts. First, you must acknowledge the harm without excuse. You must look clearly at the action and the pain it caused. You cannot heal a wound by pretending it is not there. You must say, 'Yes, I did that. I spoke that word. I caused that pain. It arose from my own confusion and suffering at the time.' You take responsibility, not with blame, but with clarity." "Second," Jin continued, "you must offer compassion. You offer compassion to the one who was harmed, feeling a sincere regret for their pain. And then, you must offer compassion to the one who caused the harm, yourself. You must look back at the person you were in that moment, just as we looked at the weeping child by the river. You were acting from your own pain, your own fear, your own ignorance. You did not know a better way. If you had known better, you would have done better. You offer that past self the same gentle understanding you would offer to a struggling stranger." "And the third part," Jin said, his gaze steady and deep, "is the release. It is the act of setting down the burden. You recognize that carrying this weight of guilt and shame no longer serves anyone. It does not help the person you harmed, and it certainly does not help you. It is like carrying a heavy sack of stones on your back out of a sense of obligation. It does not change the past. It only makes your present journey miserable. Forgiveness is the conscious decision to put the sack of stones down. You learn the lesson from the weight of the stones, and then you leave them by the side of the road and walk on, lighter and wiser." He placed the cup back on the table. "The golden repair does not erase the cracks. It honors them. It illuminates them. Your forgiveness does not erase your past mistakes. It integrates them into your wisdom and compassion. Your past actions, seen through the eyes of forgiveness, become the golden seams that make your heart more beautiful and more resilient." That night, Qian sat in quiet meditation. He decided to practice this gentle art. He brought to mind the memory of speaking sharply to his mother. First, he acknowledged it. "Yes, I said those words. They were unkind. They hurt her." He did not try to justify it. He simply saw the truth of it. Second, he offered compassion. He pictured his mother's face in that moment, the hurt in her eyes. He allowed himself to feel a sincere, heartfelt regret. "I am so sorry for the pain I caused you," he whispered into the quiet of the room. Then, he turned the compassion inward, He pictured himself in that moment, tired, stressed from his work, caught in his own ambition and fear. He saw a young man struggling under a heavy burden of self-judgment. He felt a wave of tenderness for that younger, more confused self. "You were in so much pain," he thought. "You did not know how to handle it." Third, he practiced the release. He visualized the memory as a heavy, gray stone in his hands,
Felt its weight, its coldness.
He acknowledged the lessons it had taught him about patience, about the impact of his words. And then, with a conscious act of intention, he imagined himself opening his hands and letting the stone fall to the ground. He watched it roll away and disappear. He took a deep, cleansing breath and felt a profound sense of lightness in his chest. A space had opened up where the stone had been. As you lie here now, on the verge of sleep, you can offer yourself this same profound gift of release. Perhaps there is a memory, a regret, a past action that still weighs on your heart, a stone you have been carrying for a very long time. You do not have to carry it for one more day. Gently, if you feel ready, you can bring one of these memories to mind, not to punish yourself, but to heal. First, acknowledge the truth of it with a clear and gentle honesty. See the action, the word, the moment without excuse. Yes, that happened. That was a moment of confusion. Second, let your heart open with compassion. Feel a sincere regret for any harm that was caused. And then, turn that same compassionate gaze toward the person you were back then. See the fear, the ignorance, the pain that was driving you. You were doing the best you could with the understanding you had at that time. Offer that past self a wave of gentle, unconditional acceptance. And third, make the conscious choice to let it go. You can use the image of the stone, feeling its weight and then letting it fall away. Or you can imagine the memory as a dark cloud, and with your exhale, you can watch it drift away, dissolving into the vast, open sky of your awareness. You are not forgetting the lesson. You are releasing the pain. You are transforming the cracks into gold. This act of self-forgiveness is one of the deepest expressions of self-love. It is the clearing away of the final shadows. It is the declaration that you are worthy of peace right now, regardless of your past. It is the ultimate act of coming home and setting down your heavy bags once and for all. Rest in this newfound lightness. Feel the spaciousness in your heart where the old burdens used to be. You are free. The past has no power over you. There is only this present moment, and in this moment, you are whole, you are healed, and you are at peace. Let this gentle, forgiving peace be the soft ground that holds you, the quiet lullaby that soothes you as you drift into a deep, untroubled, and truly liberating sleep. Of course, I will expand on Kian's process of forgiveness, exploring the nuances and challenges he faces to bring the part to the target word count. He took a deep, cleansing breath and felt a profound sense of lightness in his chest. A space had opened up where the stone had been. He practiced this again with another memory, the memory of his bitter jealousy toward a fellow potter. He acknowledged the poison of his thoughts. He offered compassion to the other potter for being the target of such negativity. And he offered deep compassion to himself for being in the grip of such a painful, isolating state of mind. And then he let that stone go too. With each release, he felt freer, as if he were slowly unchaining himself from his own history. The next day, Tenzin came to collect his mended cup. Kian presented it to him. The old carpenter took it in his hands, his rough fingers tracing the delicate golden lines where the breaks had been. He looked at it for a long time, his face unreadable. Kian simply waited, his heart open and calm. Finally, Tenzin looked up, and his eyes were filled with a moisture that softened the hard lines of his face. It is more beautiful," he said, his voice thick. He then looked directly at Kian, a look of deep, raw humanity passing between them. I was not kind to you when you were a boy," he said, the words coming out with difficulty. "I was a bitter man. I am sorry." In that moment, Kian felt no sense of triumph. He felt only a vast, shared tenderness. He saw the pain and insecurity that had lived in Tenzin for so long, the same pain and insecurity he had worked so hard to heal in himself. He was looking at his own reflection. "There is nothing to forgive," Kian said, and he meant it with his whole being. "We were both doing the best we could." He had forgiven Tenzin long ago, but now he understood that the final and most important forgiveness was the one he had granted himself. It was only because he had learned to forgive the jealous, angry, and frightened parts of himself that he could look at Tenzin with such complete and unconditional acceptance. As Kian continued this practice, he discovered that forgiveness was not always a single, dramatic event. Some stones were much larger and heavier than others, with deeper roots in his heart. The memory of his own youthful arrogance, which had caused a deep rift with a childhood friend, was one such stone. He would perform the practice, acknowledging, offering compassion, and releasing, and he would feel a sense of relief. But a few days later, he would find the shadow of the memory still lingering. The guilt was not as sharp, but a subtle ache remained. He spoke to Jin about this. "Some stones, Master, I let them go, but they seem to roll back," he confessed. "Am I failing at this practice?" Jin was watering a small plot of young bamboo shoots. He gestured for Kian to look at them. "When you water these shoots," Jin said, "does the ground soak up all the water in a single instant?" "No," Kian said. "It takes time. The water seeps in slowly." "Exactly," Jin replied. "And some parts of the ground are harder, more compacted. They need more water and more time before they become soft. Your heart is the same. Some wounds are deep and old. The ground around them is hard. Forgiveness is the water. You must apply it gently and repeatedly. You do not pour a flood on it and expect an instant result. You offer it a little water each day. Each time you practice, you are softening the ground a little more. You are not failing. You are tending to a deep root. Be patient. The practice is not about instantly eradicating the memory, but about changing your relationship to it day by day until it no longer has the power to cause you pain. Kian understood. Forgiveness was not a transaction, but a process. It was a commitment to gentleness, a patient watering of the hardest parts of his own heart. He learned to meet the return of an old regret not with frustration, but with a quiet recognition. Ah, this ground is still hard. It needs more water. And he would perform the practice again, with a quiet, steady patience, trusting the process. This is a vital understanding for you as you lie here preparing for this gentle work. Be kind and patient with yourself. Some burdens can be set down easily with a great and immediate sense of relief. Others, the ones you have carried the longest, may need to be tended to more than once. Do not see this as a failure. See it as an act of deep and patient love. You are gently, persistently, watering the driest parts of your own soul. Recognize, too, that forgiveness is not about forgetting. The golden seams on the mended cup are a memory of the break. The past remains a part of your story, but through forgiveness, it is transformed from a source of shame into a source of wisdom and strength. The memory of your mistake becomes a reminder to be more compassionate. The memory of your pain becomes a source of empathy for the pain of others. You are not erasing your history. You are integrating it into a wiser, more loving present. Let this gentle, patient, and transformative forgiveness be your final act of kindness to yourself today. Let it wash away the residue of regret, the stains of old shame. Let it soften all the hard places in your heart. You are not the mistakes of your past. You are the luminous awareness that has learned from them. You are the beautiful, mended vessel, stronger and more precious in the very places where you were once broken. Rest in this wholeness. Rest in this gentle, healing peace. Allow it to dissolve any final traces of tension and carry you into a sleep of profound and utter freedom. Part 10. Coming Home to Yourself, the Sanctuary Within. Breathe deeply now into the heart of the stillness. Let the night be your sanctuary, a vast and silent temple in which you can finally come to rest. We have walked a long and beautiful path together, a journey inward to the very center of your own being. We began on the riverbank, acknowledging the universal current of dukkha, our shared human suffering. We sat in the quiet meditation hall and discovered the freedom of the empty chair, the release of letting go of a fixed, solid self. We learned to watch our thoughts like clouds in the vast sky of mindfulness, and we planted the first warm seeds of metta, of loving kindness for ourselves. We learned to tend to our wounds with the gentle hands of karuna, to celebrate our own goodness with the quiet smile of mudita, and to stand firm in the winds of praise and blame on the unshakable mountain of upekkha. We looked into the mirror and recognized the luminous, perfect Buddha nature that is our true essence, and with the golden lacquer of forgiveness, we mended the broken pieces of our past, transforming our wounds into our greatest beauty. And now we have arrived, not at a destination, but at a recognition. We have come to the final, simple, and most profound understanding of all. The sanctuary we have been seeking has been within us all along. It is not a place we must build or a state we must achieve through practice. It is our very nature. The journey was never about becoming someone new. It was about coming home to the one you have always been. The last of the winter snows had melted from the high peaks, and the valley was alive with the tender, vibrant green of spring. The air was soft, filled with the scent of damp earth and blossoming plum trees. Kian's life had settled into a rhythm of simple, profound grace. His days were no longer divided into periods of practice and periods of work. His life had become the practice. His being had become the peace he once sought. When he sat at his wheel, his hands moving with the clay, he was not practicing mindfulness. He was simply present. The feeling of the cool, wet earth, the sound of the spinning wheel, the sight of a form rising beneath his touch. It was all one seamless flow of experience, and he was the silent, joyful awareness in which it all unfolded. He was the dance and the dancer. When he saw a child in the village trip and fall, scraping her knee, he felt the sting of her pain in his own heart. He did not need to practice compassion. A gentle, helpful kindness arose from him naturally, as warmth radiates from a fire. He helped her up, cleaned her wound, and spoke a soft word that soothed her tears. He felt her pain, but he was not overwhelmed by it, for he was the vast, calm ocean that could hold her small wave of suffering with perfect equanimity. When he saw another potter display a set of magnificent new vases that were perhaps even more skillful than his own, he did not need to practice appreciative joy. A genuine smile lit up his face. He felt a pure, uncomplicated happiness for the other man's success, for the simple fact that such beauty had come into the world. The old, cold stone of envy had been dissolved completely by the warm, flowing river of his own contentment. He had come to embody the teachings. They were no longer a set of instructions he followed, but the very texture of his being. He had spent so long using the tools of practice to clean and furnish a house, and now he had realized he was the house itself, already perfect, already whole, already filled with light. One evening, as the sky turned a soft violet, he took a simple, perfect bowl, one of his favorites, and filled it with the first wild strawberries of the season. He brought it to Jin. The old monk was sitting on the veranda, his work for the day done, simply watching the light fade. Kian placed the bowl before him and bowed. "Master," he said, his voice full of a quiet, profound gratitude that needed no embellishment. "The journey is over." Jin looked at him, his eyes crinkling at the corners in a warm smile. He picked up a strawberry and ate it, savoring the taste. "Ah," he said, "so you have reached the other shore." "I have," Kian said. "But the miracle is that I have discovered the other shore is this shore. I was already here, I just could not see it." "This is the final understanding," Jin said, his voice a soft murmur in the twilight. "Let me tell you a last story. A man wants to cross a great, raging river. The river is the suffering of life, the confusion, the fear. On this side of the river, he is miserable. He believes happiness is on the other side. So he gathers logs, he finds vines, and with great effort, he builds a raft. The raft is the teachings, the practices, mindfulness, compassion, all the tools you have learned. He uses the raft, and with great diligence, he paddles across the turbulent water. It is a difficult journey, but the raft serves him well. Finally, Jin continued, he arrives on the other shore. He is safe. The land is peaceful and beautiful. He is so grateful for the raft that saved him. It is the most precious thing he owns. So he thinks to himself, "This raft is so wonderful, I must not abandon it." And he hoists the heavy, cumbersome raft onto his back, and he begins to walk inland, carrying the great weight of it with him wherever he goes. Jin paused, letting the image settle. Do you see, Kian? The teachings are the raft. They are absolutely essential to cross the river of suffering. But once you have reached the other shore, once you have recognized your own true nature, to cling to the practices as a set of rules, as an identity, is to carry the raft on your back. The final freedom is to set the raft down on the riverbank, to give it a nod of deep gratitude, and to walk freely, unburdened, into the beautiful landscape of your own life. Mian understood completely. He had set down the raft. He no longer needed to cling to the identity of a spiritual practitioner or a meditator. He was simply Kian, a man who made pots, a man who was awake to the simple, miraculous beauty of being alive. He was free. He bowed once more to his master, a bow of ultimate gratitude, not just for the raft, but for the wisdom that had shown him when it was time to let it go. He walked home under a sky full of stars, his heart as vast and as peaceful as the night itself. He was not a man walking under the sky. He was
The sky,
holding the silent, glittering stars of this one perfect moment. He was home.
and now, as you lie here, in the final moments before sleep, you too can set down the raft. You can let go of all the effort, all the striving, all the techniques. You have crossed the river of this day, and you have arrived on the safe and peaceful shore of this night. The only task that remains is to rest in the peace you have found. You are home. This quiet room is your sanctuary. This comfortable bed is your sacred ground. Your own body is the temple. There is nowhere else you need to be, nothing else you need to do. Feel the truth of this in your own being. The loving kindness we spoke of is not a practice you must do. It is the gentle warmth of your own blankets, the simple, unconditional comfort holding you now. The compassion we explored is not an exercise. It is the soft, accepting way you are allowing your tired body to rest, without judgment, without demand. The appreciative joy is not a list you must make. It is the quiet, unspoken gratitude for this simple moment of peace. The gentle smile that knows this rest is a gift. The equanimity we found is not a state you must maintain. It is the deep, silent stillness of the night that surrounds you. A peace so profound that it can hold any dream, any memory, without being disturbed. The forgiveness we practiced is not a task to be completed. It is the gentle, final exhale that lets go of the day, releasing all its troubles, all its regrets, leaving you light and free. And the Buddha nature, the perfect shining mirror? It is the silent, peaceful awareness that is here, right now, listening to these words, feeling your own breath. You are the sanctuary. You are the peace. You are the light. There is nothing left to do but to dissolve into the peace that you are. Let your awareness spread out from your body, merging with the quiet of the room, with the stillness of the night. Let go of the sense of a separate self. Let go of the storyteller, the thinker, the doer.
Simply be the silent, spacious presence that is resting here. You are safe. You are whole. You are home. Trust this deep inner knowing. Let it be the final, gentle current that carries you out of the harbor of wakefulness and into the vast, silent, healing ocean of deep, restorative sleep. Rest now. You have arrived.